Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight we have returning guests. It's been a couple of years, I think. We have Dr. Bruce Olav Solheim joining us. He's such a fun guest. We had him on, I think we've had him on twice before, maybe once. He's written the Timeless series, which I really enjoyed those books. I have not read his newest one, but man, I want to. It's called Anzar, the Progenitor. He has been channeling an ancient alien named Anzar. And with, the whole UFO disclosure, we're going to talk about that in the World Wide Web of Weird and all that. I hope there's more people out there accepting the idea that somebody could be channeling an ancient alien. I believe, I've had my issues with channeling and all that, but I know Bruce, doing the interviews, reading his books, he's a really honest guy. I mean, he was a Fulbright Professor. So when this guy says he's channeling an alien, you should listen. So I hope you are listening tonight, because I think he's got some really important information that Anzar has shared with him. And of course, we have a lot of weird to get to. I had too much, way too much. I'm a little bit under the weather, and I will apologize for how I sound tonight. I will do my best. But I didn't want to skip a show, not on Bruce, because he's too good of a guest. And I didn't want to skip because, we just had this whole UFO, put the quotation marks there, disclosure happen. I'm a little hot on my mic there, let me turn that down. So tonight, I want to talk, we're going to get into the whole alien subject course with Bruce, but there's a lot. It's Paranormal Soup. It's all connected. I'm going to whisper like Joe Biden. It's all connected. But we got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get rolling into the show. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guest, Bruce Olav Solheim, Dr. Bruce Olav Solheim, will be joining us after the World Wide Web Word. I should have invited him on to do the World Wide Web Word. That's how out of it I am. I got the whole chest congestion, sinuses. It's like, Mucinex has been my friend all day, all day yesterday. Not my stomach's friend, though. My stomach doesn't like it. So bear with me tonight. Bear with me. But I felt it was really important to do this show. And, I want to hang out with my friends, like my beautiful co-host, Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing well, thank you.
It's like our since we don't get to play PUBG anymore. This is like I only get to hang out with you guys on Sunday nights, and I'm always falling asleep before Weird Wednesday, and I feel sad. I need to get on. My kid's not even in school. I don't have to get up as early. I got to get on one of these Weird Wednesdays with you guys. I'm missing you guys.
For sure.
Speaking of Weird Wednesday, the host of Weird Wednesdays here as well, and always runs the World Wide Web of Weird, is Rob Autry himself from St. Augustine, Florida. How you doing tonight, Rob?
Weird,
Yeah, that's how tonight everything could go wrong. So I kind of got it wrong, except that we're live.
So hopefully I'll be able to stay here.
Yeah, I hope so. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Because we got a great guest tonight, Bruce Olav Solheim. I mean, he was so much fun the last time we had him on. He's a Paranormal Soup kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? He goes down all the topics. He's had a lot of experiences. I mean, Fulbright Professor. I mean, come on. You don't get many people in academia and professors that are into this or talk about it or open about it, and Bruce is. So I don't know if I was one of the first shows he came on. I don't think I was, but I think we got him early on when he first came out about this, and I loved his books, Timeless. So you guys are in for an enjoyable show tonight, so definitely hang in there. But we got a lot to get to in the World Wide Web of Weird. I can't even talk. So let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. I'm so out of it, I can't even find my right music. That's how out of it I'm. Is that the World Wide Web of Weird music? No, it isn't. And I've totally lost it on my thing. Completely gone. Newsroom. Yeah, right there. This is the music. And now it doesn't want to play. Oh, no, there we go. So this is what's happened to me. Jason is a big baby when he's not feeling well. I'm a big baby. You guys, Jamie, I was griping up a storm about everything I could before the show. Let's roll into the World Wide Web of Weird now. You're tired of hearing me gripe. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, of course, what do you think I'm going to start off with? The Preliminary Assessment of Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon, or the UAP report, or UFO report to us, has come out on June 25th, which was the 4-year anniversary of Jim Arnold spotting near Mount Rainier UFOs, coining the term. I wonder if that was coincidence. I don't know. But what isn't coincidence is the fact that I kept telling you guys it was going to be a big bunch of nothing burger. For those listening on the Paranormal Soup Radio Network, we are a webcast. Sometimes we show videos. Not tonight. I think I have all articles. But we do show pictures. I have a good ghost photo. But if you want to listen, I'll narrate as best as possible. All right. So, yes, everybody's talking about this, so I might as well just get this out of the way. There's one other thing everybody's talking about. I'm saving it at the end. You can take a guess at what that is. Preliminary Assessment Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon, 9-page report. And so I posted on this on Facebook. Jamie, Rob, you saw it. And, I summed it up in what one sentence is: we don't know what they are. We're looking into it. Give us more money. It's about the sum of it. I know that's being me, very negative and pessimistic. Some of my other friends are into this and are like, don't be so pessimistic. This is a good thing. And I agree. It is a good thing. It's got people talking, people more accepting about it. And I think there's good people involved. That helped try to get Congress to take a serious look at this. But I still call BS. I don't trust the government. And I think a lot of people that serve in the government have no idea about what's been going on with UFOs, and they don't know about any secret projects. I think it's so deep. The deep state. It's way beyond the deep state. It's so deep that generals don't know about it. Your senators don't know about it. We lost control of it in the 50s, my opinion. Just from what I've done, my own personal little research into it, what I think, theorize, I can't prove it, but I don't think they have a clue. There's been secret programs going on, usually run through private companies. I think it's run by families, honestly. I think there's families that started off with this, Have you ever seen the Taken series by Steven Spielberg? I know I've mentioned that a billion times. In that, a family, a general, passes it on to his son, and then his son passes it on to his daughter. Because how you keep a secret, it's not by the next guy you hire to come on, because he could turn out to be like Bob Lazar and go tell the media. You keep a secret by keeping it to the people you trust, your family business. That's a theory of mine. But there's so much history. It's really hard for me to watch people in the media talk about this. People have never talked about UFOs before. Them talking about it on CNN, or on the conservative side, them talking about it on Daily Wire or on Fox News. It's really hard for me to watch because they're so unaware of the history of this all. There's so much history of that. I mean, I'm not even talking about the ancient alien history, which we're going to get into tonight with our guest, Dr. Bruce Olav Solheim. He's talking to an ancient alien. I'm serious. There is history going back before Roswell. Even before Roswell, 1941, there was a crash in, I always forget the place where Rush Limbaugh was born, because we had our guest on that, wrote about that. I mean, there's so much history. Our government, I think, everybody wanted to storm Area 51, and I think that has a little bit of something to do with this coming out, the push for it. Because, in the day and age we are, where everybody's entitled and demanding, and the prospect of maybe another Storm Area 51 protest or something like that, they got to start acting like they're doing something or into it. What I took away, key points I took away from this, is that they didn't really have a method or form of recording these sightings within all the different branches of military. And they started setting up, after all this started coming out in 2019, they started setting up a reporting system. And the Air Force didn't even get on board with it 6 months later. So to me, that just shows they don't want to know. They don't want to answer, because it's just like when we had the whole remote viewing, when DOD was doing that, Army was doing it, and then it got in the light of Congress. And there's like, oh no, there's not, we're not doing that anymore because it's woo-woo. It's weird. We don't want that associated to our jobs or our titles or anything.
Well, history. There's flying spacecraft painted on cave walls from thousands of years ago. So that's all.
Right. What I've said about this too. I saw one of my relatives, an aunt of mine, comment. I was like, I think it's Russians. Again, these sightings have been happening for a long time. A couple weeks ago on the World Wide Web Weird, I brought up the one that happened on June 18th, 1979, year I was born, by, I think, Barcelona or somewhere on another European country, where they had photographs of this tic-tac-like UFO. Military took the pictures. You tell me the Russians had that technology back then? There's a lot of history. There's a lot of history to this. A lot, the media just like, ooh, what an interesting story. Oh, the disclosure. It's just irritating to us who have been reading, investigating this. I'm not saying I'm a hardcore investigator. I am not. I interview them, But I've been a fan, definitely somebody who's been interested since I could read. When I read Chariots of God when I was 10. I've been all up on I remember waiting for the whole autopsy. Remember the autopsy fake? I was all over that. I've been into this for a long time. I used to print up, you get on the DSL internet line and find the Black Vault and all these other websites, and I print up all these different UFO encounters and all these stories, and I had a little black folder this big at one time of all this stuff I'd printed up. That's before I had a cell phone where I could just save the articles. It was that's what's so frustrating listening to people talk about this in the media. This is it. Where you been? Welcome to the party, pal. Yeah. There's been a lot going on, and this whole government disclosure is a bunch of crap. It is good. I have to keep reminding myself it is good about giving the opportunity for people to speak and tell their stories. That brings me up to the next one.
They pretty much don't have a choice but to say something about it, even though what they said is a bunch of BS.
Right. Well, in the day and age we live in, we have to, we have cameras everywhere. It's surveillance state. We surveillance ourselves. We got phones, pictures, everything. We surveillance ourselves. So they kind of know it's coming. There's going to be something that's just so undeniable.
And I did see a form that they posted on the MUFON site yesterday where they are asking now people to report these sightings, pilots, anybody up there. If you see something, report it, and they give a list
the FAA still doesn't have a way to report it. Pilots don't want to talk about it in the FAA, and hopefully that changes for them. But it's really faux pas in the FAA. for pilots to
I just
talk
sent
about. They
you
lose their
a
job.
copy of that. They're talking about developing the plan to formalize it.
Well, like I said, this does open it up for more people to be open to talk about it, and that's the biggest thing I love about this. Because, like I said, we are the disclosure movement. Our stories, we're we're the ones that are going to reveal what's going on. It's up to us. That's why I do a show like this, to give people an opportunity, a forum to speak about their experiences. And we got one lady here, and I'm not joking on this one, but woman falls in love with her alien abductor. See, now she could talk about this, right, with everything going on. An alleged alien abductee claims that she has fallen head over heels for one of her extraterrestrial abductors. In a bizarre story that has emerged in British press this week, Abby Bella, who hails from London, claims that she has fallen in love with an alien after having an abduction experience. I joked online about wanting an alien to abduct me, she told the Daily Star. I then started dreaming every night of a white light. One night, a voice in my dream said, wait in the usual spot. The next evening, I sat next to my open window. As I drifted to sleep, a flying saucer appeared outside. There was a bright green beam, which transported me to a UFO. During her experience, she recalled encountering a tall and slender extraterrestrial entity and immediately described forming a close connection with one of them. There was one who connected with me, she said. I felt the same. He said I had to consent to go with them, but I didn't want to say yes in case they took me forever. Within 20 minutes, she was back in her apartment. However, it seems she now regrets her choice not to go with her extraterrestrial soulmate, and is now eagerly awaiting his return. I hope he comes back, she says. I'm willing to visit the Andromeda Galaxy. So that's where he told her he was from. But did she really have a genuine abduction experience, or was this whole thing a dream? All things considered, it seems unlikely that she'll be heading to outer space anytime soon. We're going to get a lot of this. We're going to get, I'm really, I want people to come out with their stories, but we're also going to get a lot of people that are off their meds.
It's just like working
and that's fine.
The paranormal, though. Once we start
she
doing
could
all
have.
this.
I believe it's possible she could have been taken with extraterrestrial. There are actually a lot of women who have had similar encounters to this, that it's like they describe it as a soulmate experience with an extraterrestrial. And I'm not joking on that. But look at the picture they put up here with it.
Yeah.
It doesn't help the cause. Don't. That's just a blow-up doll they had to throw in there. This is where the media still lies. They still lie to make, they still want to make a joke of it. And like I said, the whole disclosure thing does give the opportunity for people to feel more comfortable. What I loved about it is all the pictures have come out, of people who held on pictures from the Rendlesham Forest. People, we covered that over the last month or two. People coming out with new evidence from that. There's new evidence. It's the Phoenix Lights. Somebody came out with that. That's all because of this more openness and talking about. I will not complain about that. I just won't take their lies and their BS.
I've been thinking about alien stuff ever since Captain James T. Kirk got it on with the Green Lady. So I saw that when I was a kid. So.
dirty bird, your dirty mind. The Ryan girls are hot.
Yeah.
All right. Now, we've had we had L.A. Marzulli on a few weeks ago or a month ago, talking about giants and all kinds of stuff along that lines. And I found this one interesting. New type of ancient human discovered in Israel, named Nashir Ramla Homo. This previously unknown species of human walked the earth 120,000 years ago. An international group of archaeologists have discovered a missing piece in the story of human evolution. Excavations at the Israel site of Nashir Ramla have recovered a skull that may represent a late surviving example of a distinct Homo population which lived in and around modern-day Israel from 420,000 to 120,000 years ago. As researcher Israel Hershkovitz, I totally butchered that, Yossi Zadner and colleagues detail in a two-companion study published today in the Science article, the archaic human community traded both their culture and genes with nearby Homo sapien groups for many thousands of years. What I found interesting about this piece is not just that it is a new species was discovered; it's a very big species. It's a very big skull. This would have been like a 7-foot tall being, in my opinion, from what they're saying, because I'm trying to find the measurements of the skull here, just so I can skip past it in the article. But it's big. This wouldn't have been like your normal species. So could this be evidence of giants? All they got is the jawbone and that. What you see here? But they know it's different from what they've had previous species. There is one species they found in Africa was it Africa? Somewhere that's similar to this. They say it could be just the same thing, but I'm trying to summarize the article here because it's really long. Even for Unexplained Mysteries, it's really long. I'm trying to find it where the size of the skull would be estimated to be, but it's big. Dang it, I can't find it in the article. I had two different ones, and I think I picked the wrong article for this. I had a good talk about the size of the cranium and how big this thing would have to be, and it just would have to be a pretty big humanoid. So was it a giant? I don't know. And it was found in Israel, biblical. I don't know.
Could be Goliath.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got to move on. I'm already running out of time, dang it. All right, Pennsylvania police enlisted to stop exorcism unfolding at a Home Depot. Police officers in Pennsylvania town responded to a rather unusual call this week when they were enlisted to break up an exorcism that was unfolding at a Home Depot. According to a local media report, the very bizarre incident occurred on Monday afternoon in the community of Dixon City when someone at the home improvement retailer reported what they described as a bad behavior taking place at the store. When cops arrived on scene, they discovered people having an exorcism in the lumber aisle for the dead trees. And the only reason people knew about it is because of this police blotter they put up on their Facebook page, I think. And it has burglary, whatever, at this time. And then it says exorcism being performed at Home Depot, broken up. And people are like, wait, what? Exorcism? Why exactly the participants in the ritual suspected that the wood might be possessed by sinister spirits sadly goes unanswered, as only the additional details offered by the Dixon City Police Department is that the officers escorted the individuals behind the strange scene out of the building. And keeping with the weirdness, the entire notice of the odd call had been tucked away between a traffic stop and a car accident on the daily police blotter. Not every day you get to stop an exorcism in Home Depot. But let's move on because we're going to run out of time. All right, where are we here? Okay, number 5. All right, we got a ghost photo. It's very blurry, very hard to see, but it might be something. An image of an allegedly agitated apparition has been caught on camera. If it's giving you the finger, I think it's agitated. Otherwise, I don't know how to know if it's agitated. It was caught on camera at the notoriously haunted prison. Built in 1779, before closing down in 1927, Bodmin Jail can be found nestled in the edge of Bodmin Moor in Cornwall, England, where it has since been turned into a hotel, museum, and gift shop. Over the years, the haunted reputation has also attracted the attention of numerous ghost hunting shows, paranormal investigators, and other keen to experiencing something unexplained. Most recently, the jail's paranormal manager, Christy Honey, has captured the image of what she believes to be a female apparition lurking within the walls. The picture was taken during our last lockdown about 4 months ago in the Naval Wing, which is part of the attraction now open to the public. I think it's an old woman described as the Hag, often seen within the walls of Bodmin Jail. She doesn't reside in one spot. She wanders through the corridors. Other people have witnessed her and felt fear or unsafe with her. She resonates a very uncomfortable feeling. I mean, he definitely looks like a person there, like she's got her arms crossed on that, but it's so blurry. It was probably very low light settings they got this on.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can guess. All right. Let's move on because we're going to run out of time here. I'm really going through it quick now. Now, I think we covered this incident of a police helicopter chasing a drone. We only had a little bit of information, Tucson Police Department, but now the reports come out, and I can't read this whole thing. You can get this at the Drive. It's really interesting. You look under the War Zone section of the Drive. And this thing was moving. This was in February 2021. It was described as a highly modified drone. Because this thing went up to 14,000 feet, was going super fast, outmaneuvering. They could not tell what kind of drone it was. They couldn't tell what kind of rotor drone it was because they couldn't explain its movements. Is this what UFO descriptions are going to be now? It's just going to be unidentified drone. It's always going to be a drone now. This scene sounded like very expensive, very high tech. It's a really interesting article. They chased the scene. Let's see, 14,000 feet. They chased it with an Airbus AS-350 on the night of the incident, while sources close to the investigation tell us a Tucson PD air support was flying a Bell 206B-3 Jet Ranger. They usually can track these things down and keep up with a regular drone, but this thing was military grade. If it was a drone. Well, I'm just saying, was it a drone?
Yeah.
Is that what we're going to always call these things now? All they could see on it is it had a little lightly green glowing dome under it. on its underside. There's not a really clear description of the total shape either, because they could really just see the little green light. But this thing was out maneuvering them.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's a drone, it's a person controlling that drone. So, to fly that high and that fast, that's a hell of a drone pilot.
You would think what kind of signal would you need to get that far out?
I mean, my drone, I can fly mine almost up to 2 miles away. But
I mean, this thing was going pretty far out.
Yeah,
they never caught it.
Yeah. I don't know.
Do you think they'd be able to track these things down? You remember all the drones and stuff? We never heard anything again about all the drone sightings around old nuclear facilities and stuff like that. Remember that we kept talking about?
Just vanished.
Yeah. And like I said, were those drones?
Yeah.
We were sure they were drones.
Yeah.
But as we see how things have gone with the military and reporting, they don't like to call things UAPs even, let alone UFOs, and they don't have a way to report it, so they'll just say it was a drone.
It was a drone.
Yeah, that's what.
That drone technology is really taking leaps and bounds.
It is. Okay, we got to get to the last article because we're going to be running out of time. Okay. Of course, I had to talk about this. Is John McAfee apparent suicide? Now, I don't get into the big conspiracy stuff on the show a lot. But yeah, this does feel like a bunch of crap, just like the Epstein thing. I don't know. His widow says no, he didn't kill himself. That she talked to him that day, and he was going to call her back that evening. He asked the guards for private time, probably to go talk to her. They said they found a suicide note in his pocket, yet to tell us what was on that note. But she says he was not in any frame of mind she thought would be to kill himself. And he look, we got these posts. We see multiple posts to him saying, if they say I hung myself, then I didn't, basically, in so many words. Or he was Epstein, like God, that's the term now, right? People, that's the day and age we live in. It's a term, Epstein.
Yeah.
Is that what happened? I don't know. Does he have a dead man switch? If he had a dead man switch, which for people who don't know, it's like he had a terabyte, this whole terabyte like hard drive thing with a bunch of corrupt people's information, to expose them. John McAfee lived big and large. He had a big mouth too. He was very, I was part of the Libertarian Party, and he ran for Libertarian president. I respected the guy for his openness and talking about libertarian philosophies and that, but he was really out there. If he had a dead man switch with that information, he trusted the wrong person with it, because obviously they would not kill you if they thought you were going to release something like that. And he definitely has the know-how to get that kind of stuff out there. But I think he trusted the wrong person then. I don't know who. But obviously, they didn't have to worry about the dead man switch anymore if they killed him. I'm just saying. There's a lot of conspiracy stuff, too. I want to warn people. Like the whole condo falling in Miami, and like he made this tweet. It's fake. I mean, I've looked into it. Other people looked into it. A lot of fake stories going on, trying to tie this and this and this. It's like the whole QAnon thing. I don't want to get into it. But just try to not buy it all. The internet can definitely be wrong. I don't know if you guys knew that. There's a lot of people out there putting a lot of bull. I don't, what out there. But I am definitely open to the idea that this guy didn't kill himself, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very highly suspect. As my kids would say, it's sus. Sus. I would say that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. I am sorry for my cracking voice here. Like I said, I am just not doing good tonight. Our guest tonight is Dr. Bruce Olav Solheim. We're going to talk about his book, Anzar, the Progenitor. I cannot talk. Progenitor. Tonight, if I can make it through this show without falling over and dying. All right, guys, we'll be right back after this short commercial break.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Of the second kind, physical evidence of a UFO. Close encounters of the third kind, contact. From Steven Spielberg, the director of Jaws, comes one of the most ambitious and unusual films ever made. And what you will see has never been seen before. It's a cosmic mystery crossing what many scientists believe will be the next threshold of human experience. It is called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It begins in an Indiana town and leads to one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Certificate A. Now showing at the Odeon, Leicester Square.
The international chart-topping, Haunted, Horror of Haverfordwest has been described as terrifyingly real, a must-read, shocking and chilling brilliance, genuinely worrying, utterly frightening. Don't read before bed. Described as one of the spookiest writers out there, best-selling author G.L. Davies presents Haunted, Horror of Haverfordwest. The true paranormal account that is shocking the world. Dare you enter? Dare you read? Haunted, Horror of Haverfordwest is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, and wherever books are sold. Pray you never have to live there.
This is the sound of a space clock aboard a U.S. satellite 180 miles above the Earth. No one winds up this timepiece. It's powered by a tiny battery, a battery that delivers power for years without replacement. Now the same type of battery, the Duracell battery, can bring new reliability and long life to your battery-operated equipment. Radios, cameras, toys, all run far longer. Duracell batteries, the long-distance power cells, outlast any ordinary battery. The same type of battery that keeps space clocks running for years can bring long life to anything powered by batteries. Dura, as in durable. Cell, as in power cell. The Duracell battery, made by Mallory.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe, 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, we have returning guest Dr. Bruce Olav Solheim. Bruce Olav Solheim was born on September 3rd, 1958 in Seattle, Washington, to hardworking Norwegian immigrant parents Asbjørn and Olaug Solheim. I'm sorry, Bruce, if I butchered your mother's name. I'm sorry. Bruce was the first person in his family to go to college. He served for 6 years in the U.S. Army as a jail guard and later as a helicopter pilot. He earned his Ph.D. in history from Bowling Green State University in 1993. Bruce is currently a distinguished professor of history at the Citrus College in Glendora, California. He's also served as a Fulbright Professor in 2003 at the University of Tromsø in northern Norway. Bruce founded the Veterans Program in Citrus College and co-founded with Manuel Martinez and Ginger D. Villa Rose the Boots to Books Transition Course, the first college course in the United States designed specifically for recently returned veterans. That's awesome. He has published 9 books, 1 comic book, and has written 10 plays, 2 of which have been produced. I think he's done more than that now. We'll get to that, too. We're going to talk about his newest book, Anzar, the Progenitor. And, you know, we've had him on before, talk about Timeless. He had a bunch of his personal paranormal stories. Well, this is about him channeling an ancient alien and giving him knowledge, things to come. And, you know, like COVID, I think, you know, we had that. He told him about that, about UFO technology. I mean, a lot of stuff. I've been waiting, counting down the days to have Bruce on for this. He's such a great guest and definitely the epitome of Paranormal Soup because he goes down all the different topics, and that's why I love having him. We will take your phone calls later in the show, probably after the next commercial break, so hang in there. We got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get to our guest. Thank you for joining us again, Bruce, on the show tonight. It is an honor to have you back on.
Well, thank you, Jason. I appreciate the invite to come back.
Now, I just started getting into the book. I haven't got a chance to read it all. I just like, I got to get this book. One of the things right off the bat I got to say is I'm really like obsessed with the cover of this book. And I don't know, you know what, Rob? I better make sure I put that in the Dropbox so we can share that on the screen. There's something, is that like what he's supposed to look like?
Well, it's one of the ways that he can appear, and is actually my editor who chose that image. I just kind of described what I wanted as one of his, appearances. And it also is a little bit frightening, and I thought that's okay because my first encounter with him, I thought he was a monster. It turned out he wasn't. You know, he's very good, very benevolent. But so anyway, I just thought that there's sometimes things that are scary, that look scary, are actually very helpful and good.
Yeah. Well, the reason I had to get off on this divergent course a little bit, but the reason I couldn't wait to talk to you about this. Is when I've talked about on the show a little bit before, is when I was in my 20s, I've had so many weird paranormal experiences like you, but me and my cousin of mine we were 20 years old, I think 21, 20, and we were sharing dreams about weird dreams. We thought we related it to maybe watching too much Dragon Ball Z or something, I don't know, but like these aliens that were Orions were like training us. Like trying to train us, and he brought it up to me. He's like, I've had these really weird dreams. I'm like, oh my god, that's what I had, and they were like big. They were like big, and they wore robes like that, and like the way his eyes kind of glow, kind of like in the picture, is like very makes me feel like that. So it was, and something I don't know would never really talked about again, and it was one of those many of the weird experiences I've had. So when you say you're talking to Ancient Alien, I'm like, I'm really interested because I felt like maybe during that time period something was trying to reach out to us both.
Yeah, that could very well be, and he's he's been in contact with me since, as far as I know, 1964, maybe before that. I was maybe younger as well, but that's when I definitely remember the first contact. Even though I didn't know him as Anzar, the progenitor, then I just knew he was a scary-looking monster, I thought, but actually he helped me. So he helped me quite a bit.
Well, I mean, aliens are not going to look, like us, mostly, you would think,
No,
that's
true.
They could look scary, but be really nice and friendly.
Yeah, and like, he can change how he looks. He's often told me, depict me as you wish. So that means he can change his appearance.
Taken many different forms.
Yeah, he in the book I have a couple of different illustrations of him, what he has appeared. Sometimes he looks kind of like a proto-human, and or sometimes the classic kind of alien shape head and stuff.
That reminds me of a little bit too, and Prometheus a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
Like the I forget what they called them, the architects or whatever they were, and Prometheus, the aliens that kind of like create us and stuff. And I was like, they're big aliens. That's what I was like. That sort of kind of reminds me of.
Yeah, there's some connections, because Prometheus, according to legend, brought us fire.
Right.
So, which
progenitor.
Yeah,
means he's the first.
He has told me that he has nudged. He's been giving us nudges since the beginning. So, the way I start the book, and I know a lot of your listeners will not be too befuddled by it or whatever, but I started the book for people who may just, oh my gosh, what is he talking about? He's talking about ghosts, he's talking about all this, and now he's talking about an ancient alien. So
here's a picture.
Yeah, and I just said at the beginning of the book, I said that if you were to tell me 10 years ago, let's say you came up to me and said, I'm talking to this ancient alien mystic, and I would be very polite, but I'd probably, I'd be a little bit skeptical. That's natural to be skeptical. Even if you've had remarkable mystical experiences, you're still, if it's something you haven't quite heard before, you're going to reserve judgment. I'd be polite and everything. But so I asked my readers at the beginning to bear with me as I go through this. And so, and anyway, I understand the skepticism. And I teach a paranormal class too, through community education at my college. And I've had skeptics in that class too, which is, I think it's great. I think it's healthy to be a little bit skeptical, not like,
there's some people need to be
debunker.
Some people need to be way more skeptical.
Some people, they probably need to be a little bit more cautious. Maybe that would be a good way to put it, And
some people need to open their minds. And some people need to open their minds. We could use a little bit of both. I enjoyed the Timeless series, but I didn't read the third one, though. I didn't realize. I got behind on you, Bruce. I'm so sorry. I read the first two. Yeah, but I really enjoyed them.
Well, thank you. Yeah, they documented 89 different paranormal experiences I've had, from angelic stuff to demonic stuff to telepathy and psychokinesis and even some cryptids thrown in. So I've had the full menu.
You've had the Paranormal Soup menu.
Yeah, I have. Exactly the way your show is set up. So, and the alien stuff too. And I kind of didn't bring in the alien stuff till the third book because I kind of wanted to test the waters. Being an academic, there's a lot of academics and scientists and people who don't want to come forward with their experiences because they're afraid they'll lose their tenure, their job, their friends, their colleagues, their students, whatever, and or their funding, right? So but I'm at the end of my career. I'm 62, so I'm going to keep teaching. But there's not much they can do to me, and I was frightened to really start telling these stories. But my friend Gene, who we talked about last time, he convinced me in 2016 that it was time to start telling my stories.
He passed on, right?
Yeah, he told me a month after he died. He came to me in a vision, which is not, super unexpected for me because I've, had a lot of those kind of experiences. Yeah. But what was really unique is that he specifically said, I have to tell these stories, and even gave me the title of the series, Timeless.
Yeah.
Because that's how he described where he was, that it was timeless, and explained that to me. And so it was a natural progression, Timeless Deja Vu, Timeless Trinity was the last one. They each got more the edgier, they just kept revealing more and more. The first book, I didn't stray too far. I didn't talk about aliens or anything. Yeah. Second, third. And then with Anzar, it's not really the fourth book in this series. It's just kind of a standalone book about just this ancient alien mystic and my connection to him. So it's a little bit longer than the other books too. It's, you said that you'd started reading it. It's over 400 pages. So and half of it is my research on how the alien world, the spirit world, and the quantum world are all the same thing. So a lot of documented research, a lot of end notes, footnotes, whatever. And the second half is the actual the transcripts of my contact with him. So there's a little bit of everything in there for people.
And it is channeling, like you are channeling.
Yeah, people use that. Well, I don't always use that word, but that's I think the best way to describe it. On my spirit walks that we talked about last time, when I talked to Gene and my mom and dad and other people who've passed on, I also contact Anzar, and this has been going on for 3 years. And I bring a voice recorder with me on my phone, and I don't record their voices because it's internal. So I ask a question, I record it, and then I hear what they say, and I record that. And the reason I do that, and this is good for anybody who goes on spirit walks, and you're in a meditative state, is you don't always remember what the information you got, and it's very important to remember it. So the first couple times I did it, when I started doing it 3 years ago, I wasn't recording it, and who knows what I missed out on. So that's why I started recording it. And when I come home, then I transcribe it, and I had over 300 pages of typed notes, transcripts that I then condensed into the last part of the book, my communication with him.
Yeah, I just know that from just doing like readings. Like when I would mess around with tarot, I would tell people stuff and not remember what I told them, because I think part of that was it wasn't meant for me. But that seems to be like a common theme with a lot of channelers. I mean, Edgar Casey didn't remember any of it. When he's went into his state, it just seems like when the brain enters that different field, that the information doesn't hold. So that's really smart to like record it like that and then document it later. One of the things I loved about the Timeless series and your stories is they actually I love your mother. Because I remember you guys used to do like games, like telepathy games and stuff like that. We'd read. You had a very open relationship about this stuff.
Yeah, well, with my mom, she was very psychic, and she wasn't a practicing psychic, but she was very interested in astrology and as much as she could without my father noticing too much, because he was did not like that stuff. And so we would read each other's minds with cards. We would do card reading with just a plain, the regular playing cards, until my dad would come in and tell us to put it away, and then she'd look at me and kind of wink. So we had that special connection. And I'm very glad I did, because it became normal to me. I was having these experiences, and she was able to make it seem normal for me, because I really think it is. But I think the paranormal is normal, supernatural is really natural. But as natural and human beings that we are. But so she played a major role in that, and I still talk to her on my spirit walks, and. Well, 1960, she was ahead of her time, and that
it was very faux pas. And maybe was that because of her Norwegian background? It was just more open to do that with you.
Well, in northern Norway, where my parents are both from, a remote island, 200 miles above the Arctic Circle, people are very close to the earth and the ocean and the stars, and they live in 3 months of darkness during the year. They see the northern lights. So they have a very mystical, magical place that they live, and it's not surprising, the troll stories, and people believe it, and that kind of stuff. So which is, that I grew up with all that folklore and belief systems and just that natural connection to it. But what my mom taught me pretty early on was that I have to be careful who I tell this to. Like at school, when I started talking about my special invisible playmates and stuff, she said, well, and the teacher gave me, some trouble about it. My mom said, well, you can't really tell everything to everybody. You have to be careful who you talk to. You can talk to me. And so she was that outlet for me.
That's
and
awesome.
So I never let go of it, even though the teacher said they're not real. So stop talking about it. I said, okay, but then I knew they were real to me. So,
yeah, like, that's your opinion.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so Anzar has been with you you think pretty much from the beginning. What was what you think your first encounter was with him as a kid?
Well,
what did that entail?
Yeah, I didn't know him as Anzar, so I was only 6 years old, and it was a very scary experience because what happened was our neighbors that were above our house. And this is growing up in Seattle. And we live below a Nike missile site. So that kind of, there's always a connection between aliens and nuclear stuff.
Yeah.
But so we live very close, probably a half a mile from this nuclear missile site, which was on the top of the hill. Well, these neighbors above us, my parents would go out, and I would go up there, and they would babysit me. Well, the woman was fine. The mother there was fine. They had 3 kids. But the father was weird. And he just, even as a 6-year-old, I knew there was something wrong with him. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I didn't know what to call it.
Yeah.
But he would act like a child, and he'd play games with us, and they were weird games, and like he'd go hide in a closet, in a dark closet, and we'd have to go into the closet with him. And I was too afraid to do it. That's too weird. I don't want to do it. But other kids were doing it. He'd give us little Dixie cups filled with this weird, what he said was Kool-Aid, but it didn't smell right. So I didn't drink it. And now I know it was alcohol, now that I have consumed alcohol as an adult. But so I knew something was wrong. So that's when Anzar came into my life. I didn't know him as Anzar, but I just knew he was this big, scary dude. And it was in my backyard. My window, excuse me, in our house faced the backyard, faced kind of up the hill towards their house. Well, that's where I first encountered him. And it's kind of like with telepathy and with the, like a, whatever you call it. Anyway, I saw him in the backyard, and he told me, and the first thing I would say was, "You look like a monster," and he said, that's, and he was very calm, and he's very kind, and he said, "You have to stop going to that house. I'm going to help you, so you don't have to go to that house anymore." And I told him what the man had said. He was doing all these weird things. And one of the things he had told us kids, he would ask us, well, what are you most afraid of? And this is classic, child predator
grooming
kind of stuff. Yeah. So he said, what are you most afraid of? And that kids were telling him, and he asked me, and I was honest, like most kids are really honest when you ask him stuff. And I said, well, I'm afraid of the devil, because I was in Sunday school, and that's what you're taught as a Lutheran, you're afraid of the devil. And he said, anything else? And I said, yeah, I have croup, so every once in a while I have trouble breathing. I can't breathe at night, and I'm afraid of, that I'll stop breathing. And he said, well, I'll tell you this: if you tell your parents or any adult what I'm doing here, the devil's going to come and stop you from breathing. And so that really scared me. So Anzar comes to me. He says, don't worry about that guy. Don't go up there anymore. And I said, well, can I tell my parents about you? And they said, well, Anzar said, well, if they're probably not gonna, it's probably not gonna go well if you tell them, but just tell them about that guy and that you don't want to go there anymore. And I guarantee you won't have to go there anymore. And so I told my mom the next time, that we were supposed to be babysat, or I was supposed to be babysat, I said, I'm not going there. And she said, that's fine. She totally accepted it. I didn't have to tell her. She
probably had an instinct about it, a mother's instinct.
She did, because she knew that I didn't want to go there. And so it was pretty clear. And Anzar also showed me his ship in kind of a hologram. That's the word I was looking for earlier, hologram. And it was kind of a golden inside, had very, not any furniture, not any, fighter pilot seats or anything like that. And he said that someday I would fly. I would fly. And I thought I'd be an astronaut like most kids.
Yeah.
In the 60s. Ended up, I did fly in the Army. I mean, I was a helicopter pilot. So that did come true. But the one thing I remember telling him, I said, you look like a monster. Why should I believe you? And he said, well, I might look scary and that man might look normal, but that doesn't mean that he's not the bad one.
Yeah,
so that was
a monster.
That was an important lesson for me as a child. You can't judge a book by its cover. You have to, believe what's in your heart and what makes sense to you. So anyway, it was a rescue. He saved me. Now, as a result of that, we talk about when you have alien encounters or abductions or whatever, that sometimes people have physical things that happen or psychological things. Obviously, I was traumatized by this, even though it was a rescue, and he saved me from this child molester. For 2 years, I couldn't speak. I had trouble speaking. I was in school, obviously, at 6, but for 2 years, I had to go to speech therapy for 2 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
Because I was
happened
stammering.
Right after this.
Yes. And I had no problem speaking, no stammering or stuttering before. And then for 2 years, I had to go to speech therapy. And after 2 years, I was able to speak normally. Now, part of the research I did in the Anzar book was I looked at speech pathology and what happens with folks, with especially kids. And they say one of the reasons is a traumatic event that can cause a disruption in your ability to speak. And of course, now I speak for a living. I'm a professor, so I never stop talking, as my wife says sometimes. So I just keep talking, and after 2 years, so that was the impact of that first experience. Although it was ultimately, I would trade that for not, for being protected. I mean, it's a great bargain.
Well, I mean, so when you first saw Anzar at 6 years old. Mm-hmm. It sounds like you guys are having a back and forth conversation. You didn't run from him.
No, I didn't run. I guess even though I said he was scary, I didn't run. I didn't, hide or try to put it out of my mind. I guess by intuition, because I had a paranormal experience before that, an angelic healing experience in Norway, actually, which was the first one I can remember. So I kind of knew that there was this other world. So I figured, if he wanted to harm me, he would have already harmed me. So
you were open to it.
I was open to it, and it made sense what he was saying, and he was trying to help me. And my mom agreed with me not going up there. So it worked out well. But it was so unusual. The experience was so unusual, and he was very big, and so it was traumatizing. So a lot of people say alien contact can be ultimately good, but you're going to have some negative effects from it, just naturally,
Well, I mean, in the ultimate, this was good. I mean, it stopped you from being harmed by a child predator. When he talked to you, though, was it telepathy, like the way you guys talked? It was.
Yeah, as far as I can, I could hear his voice. So, it was telepathic, and the imagery was very holographic. That's what he kind of seemed like.
Did he appear holographic?
Yes, he did.
Yeah?
He appeared in his ship. That's as best I can remember. That's what it looked like to me.
Where am I getting some loud audio feed in from somebody here? What was that?
Okay.
Oh, it's gone now. Okay. It was,
okay.
I don't know what that was.
It was just Anzar checking in.
Yeah. All right. Hold off, Anzar. Well, what my brain goes to with that is that, he had to come to you to save you. Like, he's probably watching you, whatever. He's a part of you for some reason. We're going to get into that.
Yeah.
But maybe the method of the telepathy did something with your brain.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what screwed up. I mean, a psychologist. Oh, there's that sound again. We're getting a loud feed fuzz. That's from you, Rob. I saw you mute and unmute. So I don't know what you got going on, Rob, but don't unmute yet until you figure it out. All right. But what I'm getting is they changed something in your brain, to communicate with you. Is probably they didn't want to do it that way, but they probably had to save you.
I think so, and because I had already had that experience at age 4 and age 5, that angelic healing experience. I already, the aperture was open, the doorway to another dimension was open. So, I guess I was already prepared then, and this was just the next step. And there would be other steps as well.
So, I mean, you didn't get his name till way later in life, but was that the only contact until later in life, or did he kind of just stick with you?
I don't have any conscious memories of him, or even retrieved memories of him until my conscious memory of him in '97. Now, I had alien contact experience in '73. And 77 and 78, very profound things that happened, but he was not directly involved. Although when I asked him about it, he said that he had observed and knew about it. So he just wasn't directly involved. But the next time I kind of checked in with him, and when I first got the name, the progenitor, was in 1997. And it was a vision, a dream. I was awake, so it was a vision, like I had with Gene, but this time it was with this very tall, proto-human looking alien in a robe, and he called himself the progenitor. And that's when he said that I was a seer, that I had a mission, that I was a seer, a mystic, or whatever, whatever I think he said I was a seer. And then he explained things to me, explained how that there was no past, there was no future, there was only the eternal now, and he's speaking to me from all these different dimensions, and he told me about it. It was a very Zen-like experience. He said, the bargain for war for peace, or for war is peace, and just all these kind of opposites, and told me how the dimensions are connected, that a black hole goes into a quasar in the other side. And I remember after that, actually before that experience, I'd already been drawing these kind of interdimensional grids, like a black hole, like a
it's on the
grid
cover of your
pattern.
book, isn't it? Like Timeless, the first book, you kind of have that kind of grid thing.
I think there might have been in one of those. And so I had been toying around with that idea already, and he explained that to me. So but I didn't tell anybody. I even drew a picture of what he looked like. I wrote everything down that he said, and then I didn't tell anybody till 2001. And then I thought it would be safe to tell a fellow professor of mine. She was an anthropology professor, and she was into shamanism and stuff. So I thought, she's a safe person to tell about this. So I showed her the picture. I told her the story, and she just looked. She was grading papers. She looked up at me, and she said, "You're a pretty spacey dude, aren't you?" And I got that was the total wrong reaction that I wasn't expecting that reaction. I was expecting her to be sympathetic and let's have a big discussion. Slam the door, right? And I mean, may she rest in peace. She's passed away now, but she was a very nice lady. But I just the timing wasn't right, I guess. So that was in 2001, and so it wasn't until 2016 that when I talk about Gene that the door opened again. I mean, I kept having paranormal experiences, but I was too afraid to tell the story. I was afraid I'd lose my job, and I was in the the military reserve again for a while during that time, and it just it was 2016 when Gene came to me after he passed away and told me it was time, and that's when I lost my fear, most of my fear of what would happen. And of course, nothing bad has happened to me since I decided to tell my stories, and my colleagues have come up to me. I'm kind of a safe person to talk to about their experiences. So these fellow teachers and professors will come up and say, I got to tell you about what happened to me. And they'll kind of look around like to see if anybody's listening. and they'll tell me. So, so that it was encouraging. And then I thought I'd go one step further, and I'd ask the college if I could teach a paranormal class. And surprisingly, nobody's more surprised than me when they said yes. So a couple of years ago, I started teaching this paranormal class at night. Got all these people to get, all walks of life, from 80-year-old people to 18-year-old people, men and women, all races, ethnicities, religions, backgrounds, whatever. They all had one thing in common. They wanted a safe place to talk about their experiences and try to get a framework for understanding it, get a handle on it. And that's we haven't done it in the last year and a half because of COVID, but we're going to start doing it again in the spring. I've stayed in touch with all of them. So that's and then in 2000 3 years ago, when talking to Gene during my spirit walks, I said I want to connect with the progenitor. Can I speak to the progenitor? And then he came to me. I saw him. I heard him, and that's when he told me. I asked, I call you the progenitor, but do you have another name? And he said Anzar. So, I looked up Anzar and I found out he's like in Morocco. There's a god of water,
Really?
So it's kind of a well-known, and there's a Anzar High School in Central California, which is tied into one of the early missionaries, the one that founded a lot of the early missions, and he was from the Basque region of Spain, which is kind of interesting. Has an interesting connection to all this, and there's a town called Anzar in northern Iran as well. So there's all kinds of cool connections there, and so that's when he told me. And then from that point on, every time I do a spirit walk, about 4 times a week, I connect with him. So like I said, for the last 3 years, been doing that.
Well, it sounds like, but he's always been with you. This is something tied to you.
I think he's been, and I've asked, why me? Why?
Right. That's
because I don't consider myself, any more special than anybody else. I just have had this ability to connect, mediumship, and it's not, other types of things are very difficult. Like remote viewing is not easy for me. I like it and I've done it, but mediumship just seems to be very easy for me. So I can get into the zone pretty quick and make the connections and, and then, like I said, record it. And so he said that we are connected, so that him and I are connected. And I said, well, you're the progenitor, so that means you're connected to everybody, right? Because you started this whole thing. And
the Prometheus.
Yeah. And he said, well, that's true, but I'm especially for you, connected to you. And I knew what my mission was to not interpret, but to record what he said and pass it on the best that I can. And so that's the connection I have to him. And then I did have one, there's been actually 3 people that have met him now.
Really?
The second person was a year and a half ago at a CIRO meeting, which is the Close Encounter Resource Organization headed by Yvonne Smith, who's a hypnotherapist. I'm sure you know who she is. And we were at a meeting, and I asked Anzar before the meeting, I said, can you come with me? I want to see who can see you. Because that would really, help me.
You're still looking for validation, and
yes.
you're getting these visions, but you're like, is this just my mind or my imagination? Is that what you're struggling with at that point?
Yes, and there's always an element of that. It's that little bit of skepticism that's always.
That's honesty. I would say you're full of it if you're just like, oh, I totally believe him and everything. Asking for that validation is very important to me.
And you can lose stuff in translation too. That's the other thing.
True.
Mediumship, you can lose a lot in translation. You have to be careful. But anyway, so I asked him, and he said he agreed. And so I went to the meeting. I waited till the end of the meeting. I said, okay, everybody, did anybody see anybody with me? And it's a CIRO group, so they knew I wasn't talking about like, a guy sitting next to me. It's like some kind of spiritual thing. So this one lady in the back named Lucy, a friend of mine, Lucy, she said, yeah, who's the big, giant, native-looking dude behind you? And she's a shaman in the Native American tradition. She has a connection to Pine Ridge and all that. And I said, that's Anzar. And she says, no way. And I said, yeah, that's Anzar. And she said, that's unbelievable. Let me show you something. And she pulled out her wallet, and in her wallet was her driver's license. And she showed me the street she lived on was Via de Anzar. The way to Anzar. There's a tremendous synchronicity. Not only did she see him, and then she gave me some advice after that. She said that the feeling that she got was that an integration might be in the works or ongoing, an integration. And she was very wary of it. She said, now be careful, because if spirits are trying to integrate with you, somebody in the spirit world, whether they're Anzar or whoever, that's something you got to be very cautious about. So I took it very cautiously, and I asked Anzar about that, and he said, yeah. And I said, well, does that mean I lose my sense of self, my, who I am, And he said, no, it just makes it easier for that connection to remain, so we can continue and you can grow. So that's been ongoing, this integration, and it's been very helpful for me, and extremely helpful. I mean, for my growth as a medium, but also as a person. And the one thing he says every time, Jason, I want to share this with everybody in your audience too. He tells me every time while we're talking, he says, always keep love in your heart and operate from a position of love. Now, I've had people tell me that Anzar, he sounds like some kind of demon. I've had people on Facebook. Let's say he's a demon. You got to be careful. And I said, no, a demon wouldn't say that. I've had experiences with demonic entities, and horrible experiences, and I know what that's like. I've had enough experiences to know. And plus, a demon would never say that. A demon wouldn't say, always keep love in your heart and operate from a position of love. Wouldn't be very moderate in their views and loving, and tell me, like when he tells me things that may happen in the future that he detects, prophecies or predictions or whatever. He says predictions can be wrong, but preparations are never wrong. So he says this may occur, so you might want to prepare and let people know to prepare for what may occur. He said there are a lot of variables. And
the future's always in motion, as I always quote Yoda on this show.
Yeah.
From Star Wars. That's my theory on it.
So it's always touchy for me when he tells me this, what might have happened. So
yeah,
I've shared it on Facebook, and then I've had very negative reactions, like talking about COVID. When in January, well, a year before COVID happened, he told me there'd be a series of calamities that would impact the entire world. And he said that you need to be prepared for it. So we started slowly making preparations. We're not like total preppers or anything, but we have quite a bit of, a generator and extra propane to run the generator, all that basic kind of stuff, water, extra food, extra medicine that's required. And then in January of 2020, when the whole thing was very early on, I don't think we even had any cases here. Anzar told me that this is one of the calamities, and it's a major calamity because millions of people are going to die. And he said it originated in a lab in China, and that it was accidental. He told me that in January of 2020. So I shared this information, right, thinking I want to be helpful to people.
Oh,
right?
Wow, geez, you really
and
stepped in
I
it.
opened up a Pandora's box, and there were people yelling at me. And I'm not political. I'm really not. I'm a history professor, and I'm very
It shouldn't
careful.
be political, though, Bruce. It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be, and I'm very careful. But I got one guy who said that COVID is nothing, and you're exaggerating, and this is hysterical. What did he say? It was hysterical fear mongering. And I'm not mad at the guy for saying that. I mean, he was upset. He didn't want to hear that, obviously. So that was his gut reaction. So, God bless him.
I can give him some agreement on the fear-mongering media. I can give him some agreement on that.
There is a lot of that. So that's why I'm always, when I get information, I'm always kind of, do I say something? Who do I say to, how do I frame it?
Yeah.
I mean, so I always use the framing that he uses, is that preparations are never wrong. Predictions can be wrong, but preparations are never wrong. And
can't hurt.
I mean, I live in Southern California. We live in Southern California, so earthquake country. So it's never bad to have an emergency kit, emergency food, water, generator. I mean, that's just common sense. You should have that anyway. And for a lot of other areas too, for other reasons. But so preparation is, never wrong in that respect. So, but it's not just that kind of stuff that he gives me. He gives me a lot of, wisdom. And I'll just share one thing with you because, we all know that UAP report came out the 25th, right?
Right.
And he had told me before that, and I shared this on Facebook and with my Zero friends, that he said it's going to be less than satisfactory. He told me. And,
he called that.
And I think a lot of people knew that. And he said that they're, basically they're framing it as a military threat, which of course I've read through it a couple times now, and the word threat appears, 20 times in there, and that is how it's framed. And there's some other kind of interesting things in there too that we can talk about if you want to.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, so that that's so that's some of the wisdom he's been giving me. But in that regard, he said, and because our government, and not just our government, but other governments too, look at the UAP technology as some kind of way that maybe they can strap a bomb to it. They want to make it into it. They want to weaponize it. That's whatever, whether it's politics or technology, they want to weaponize it. So it's unfortunate human thing. But so he told me extraterrestrial technology and wisdom. I'm reading it because I want to get it right. This is what he said. Extraterrestrial technology and wisdom are precious gifts for all, not a strategic advantage for the few.
Right.
So it's a very egalitarian thing. And he's told me before that they're not going to allow us to nuke each other. It happened, with us dropping the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And as a historian, I know that I understand the decision. I specialize in foreign policy and diplomatic history, so I understand both sides of the argument. But we were the first and only so far to release atomic weapons, and he said that him and others, ETs, are not going to allow us to annihilate each other with nuclear weapons. But they will
I hope
not.
That's true.
they will not stop us from conventional warfare.
Right.
That's up to us. So, they'll be like the last line of defense to make sure that we don't annihilate the whole planet, because they're very interested in this planet, not just us. So, we live on this beautiful blue marble, right? So,
yeah,
it's a jewel. It really is, and they know that, and that's why they're part of the reason they're so interested. But so those, there's quite a few things he's told me. That's just a couple of them. He said stuff like, you know what will happen in the future because you manifest it, which puts the ball
choose
in
the
our
form
court.
of your destructor.
Yeah, it puts the ball in our court, right? You want a good future, then you create that, and if not, that's the, and he's the one who told me that the alien world and the spirit world and the quantum world are all really the same thing, and that's how it works, basically how it works, and so that's just a few of the things. So what I did in the book is, like I said, the first part's the theoretical stuff, the heavy research, footnotes, all that stuff. The second part is the transcript, all the stuff he's told me, my questions, his answers, his wisdom, his predictions, prophecies, everything, preparations. And then at the very end, I have 45 of the most important bits of wisdom that I think he's given me. And then also some of the predictions that he's made that have come true. So that's at the very end of the book, of the 403-page book, I think it is. But it, so I there's a little bit for everybody there. And like I'm not claiming to be a prophet or I'm just a conduit for what he's telling me. And I'm figuring out, I'm learning every day, how do I get this information out? And so I got the book.
Right.
I do, I talk to people, nice people like yourself and your audience. And I post things on Facebook, but I'm kind of careful there because, you never know how that's going to be interpreted, and you kind of lose control of things very quickly, and people aren't always
sad.
They're not always reasonable, and I'm not mad at them for being that way, because it's mind-boggling when you think about it. I mean, this stuff is really mind-boggling.
It's fear.
Yeah,
that's what you're seeing. You're seeing a lot of people scared about the possible futures that they're facing.
Yeah,
a lot of fear. I see that in people, and fear myself. I am a parent. I worry about my children's future. You know, I'm angry too. It's fear and anger.
Yeah.
And a lot of people want to be. I'm angry at the Chinese government. I'm angry at our NIH. I'm angry at everybody involved when it comes to this. Because we should never have been researching gain of function. It's as simple as that. We shouldn't be creating things that could, wipe out millions of people.
Yeah, just because we can do it doesn't mean we should.
We should. Yeah. See, they're not going to stop us from doing that. I think though that points out a thing here. They won't stop us from going to war and killing each other on a normal battlefield or creating a bioweapon. Because there was 15 military scientists involved in the Wuhan lab.
Yeah.
They're not there to heal, to learn how to get in front of the next virus. They're there to create a bioweapon.
Yeah.
They're not going to stop us from that. But the nuke thing, they will. Why? Because I think they're here.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. That's what happened with 1947. There's so much, the Kenneth Arnold sightings and Roswell. All that started out because what we did, we dropped a bomb.
Yeah, I think we got their attention. We definitely got their attention. Yes, and and this is it's a weird thing because I was on some show. I'm not going to mention it, but it was censored when I started talking about that prediction that he made about the lab leak or whatever, the accidental leak. Even though it was dangerous research they were doing, they shouldn't have been doing. But it wasn't, according to Anzar, it wasn't intentional. Now they should have known that this could happen. A lot of people should have known that this could have happened. You start doing stuff like that, but
maybe it wasn't intentional. So. Maybe it wasn't intentional, but I still have a feeling there was people behind this that were like, let's give a loaded gun to a monkey and not teach him what the safety is and see what happens. I'm just saying that there seems to be some pre-planning to this. There's stuff I've seen that there was some foreknowledge of this coming. Like I said, I think it was really like this is going to eventuality because this is going to get out.
There's two words that kind of describe a lot of the worst mistakes we've ever made as human beings, and I think arrogance and ignorance are. And it doesn't mean a person can't be super smart, but make a very, very bad decision. So I don't mean ignorant in the sense that they are not smart, but discipline with that intelligence. And arrogance, thinking that you have the authority, or you alone can be trusted with this, and you won't make a mistake, and I know what's right and wrong, and you see a lot of that, and
especially in science.
In science, you do, because you figure. I mean, go back in time, and you see what the scientific community has been very harsh on the people who were pushing the edges of science, and the idea that it's ridiculed, and then it's attacked, and then eventually it's glad I thought of it, that kind of thing.
Oh, now we can use it as a weapon.
Yeah,
hey,
exactly.
Come on, now we're all cool about it. I mean, you just look at Oppenheimer's reaction to his own, invention. I mean, it was sadness and fear. I
think all of the atomic scientists, except for Edward Teller. Teller, I don't think was remorseful at all.
No, he was like, woohoo, let's blow stuff up.
Let's go do the H-bomb now.
yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. But it was, I think, the lowest point in humanity, that we could create something like that would take that many lives. And we're not done. We're so good at finding ways to kill each other. And we should be embarrassed, especially if there's aliens watching. And that's what the whole disclosure movement, I keep being ridiculing of, but I keep saying the good thing about it is it's opening up for more people to be more accepting to talk about it, and that is great. That is great, because what you're doing, I mean, look how long it took you to come out and talk about it. That's sad.
Yeah,
people should be able, people need not to be afraid to talk about these. Think how many people are out there like you, who are having these experiences and communications, and they don't tell a single soul because they're so afraid of ridicule. They're so afraid of what other people will think of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Me and you, we got over that, but it's not easy.
I encourage people to do that. And I know, for my colleagues who may be just starting out their careers, I understand they don't want to do anything to derail it early on. I'm nearing retirement, right? But Dean Radin, who's the chief scientist at IONS, the Institute of Noetic Sciences, which was founded by NASA astronaut Edgar Mitchell, they did a survey of scientists and engineers, and they found out that 85% of them, I think it was the number was 85% have had paranormal experiences, but they don't want to talk about them.
Right.
So they're in a position to do a lot with that information, but the dominant paradigm has been to be quiet about it, and it's foolishness, and it's too woo-woo, and you're not going to get research dollars. And they're always hurting for research dollars for paranormal research. And my idea is that because the spirit world, the paranormal world, the alien world, the quantum world are all really the same thing. We're talking about the same kind of thing. Yeah. When ghosts vibrate in and out of our reality,
it's the same as an alien passing through a wall.
Yeah,
passing an abductee through a wall.
Yes, they're doing all the same kind of stuff. And in terms of disclosure, Ansar had a very interesting thing to say about disclosure. He calls it revelation instead of disclosure. He said, because he convinced me, he said disclosure is other directed. We're sitting here waiting for this report to come out the 25th of June, right? It comes out, it's less than satisfactory, right? Disclosure is you're waiting for somebody to disclose the truth to you. Revelation is where it becomes, you internalize it. It comes from you. It comes from the grassroots, and that's
what I've been saying on the show, Bruce. That's what I've been saying about this whole thing. The real disclosure or revelation, because I really like that, is from us. It's not. Yes. We don't need their permission. We need to get people the opportunity and the forum to talk about these things and talk about the experiences, because we're all pieces to a big puzzle. Yeah. And we're not going to find it out until we start talking about it.
Yeah, we have to. And I'd mentioned earlier that I've read the report several times and underlined and put notes in it. I heavily annotated it. And like I said, the term threat comes up again and again. That's how they define it. But if you read between the lines, there's some really interesting. Yeah, you can almost feel. Maybe I'm intuitive about it. I can see maybe what.
There's a bigger report than this. This is
Yes,
the
there is.
9-page summary. It's 10 times bigger than this with satellite footage, all this stuff we haven't seen yet. It's going to come out. That's going to come out eventually. We're going to get to look at what all the other senators have gotten to look at. Yeah. And that'll be interesting, but it still won't be the major breakthrough because, like I said, the deep, dark, secret stuff that the very few know that's never coming out because it's not within our privy of our regular government officials' bureaucracy.
There's a phrase in there that really caught my attention, and you probably caught it too. They talk about signature management and signatures intelligence, and what they're talking about is cloaking. Yeah. What they're talking about is there's no heat signature coming off the craft. There's no radar signature. There's no or it can disappear. In other words,
it can control the RF signature.
It can control its signature. Which of course none of the earthly stuff we create can do this stuff.
Right.
So that when they start talking about that, I think that slipped into the unclassified one. Probably I don't know if somebody didn't realize that that's a big clue right there, that we're not talking about terrestrial technology.
Oh, no. I think, like I said, there's good people behind this that are trying to get this information out. But there's also people who are like, yeah, we better get that military budget now. Because, boy, we got to keep up. I mean, if that's China or Russia, well, geez, we are way behind. So how about that $100 million military contract for the newest plane from Boeing? Or you see what I'm saying? It always comes down to money.
Yeah, I several times I annotated a big dollar sign, when I saw what they were leading to. So, but, sometimes, they have to play the game. The ones that are, the folks that really want to push this and have good intentions know they have to play the game, the power game, the political game. So they got to talk about threat. They got to talk about dollars and cents. They got to get a budget and then frame it in the most, what's the word I'm looking for? The most pedestrian term, like it's, let's not get crazy. Let's not talk about aliens. Let's just talk about
Let's not call it a UFO. It's a UAP.
Yes. And it could be Chinese or Russian, it could be those guys, that they're doing this, even though we're talking about signature intelligence and capability, which is beyond.
If it is, we're screwed.
I think we already would have had, much more than just some hacking going on if that was true.
Yeah. All right, we got to go to commercial break. Yep. When we come back, we'll open up the phone lines, guys. Join the conversation. Tell us about your experiences. Have you felt like you've communicated with something that's not just a spirit, but an alien entity? I think some of you have in the panel or in their chat room. I'd love to hear about your experiences or ask questions of our guests tonight. But we'll be right back after a short commercial break.
Of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello, I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift, a refreshing and fun read. I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Edgar Allan Poe wrote Spirits of the Dead with a pen dipped in warm blood. You will see the ultimate in terror with this important all-star cast. Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda in Edgar Allan Poe's Spirits of the Dead. Only Poe's demented genius could bring to the screen such horror and evil. Spirits of the Dead stars Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda. Directed by three masters of the cinema, Federico Fellini, Louis Malle, and Roger Vadim. Spirits of the Dead is an adventure in terror beyond your wildest nightmares. Spirits of the Dead in color is rated R.
The answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is $42. Yes, I thought it over quite thoroughly. It is, it's 42. It would have been simpler, of course, to have known what the actual question was.
But it was the question. The ultimate question. Of everything.
That's not a question. Only when you know the question will you know what the answer means.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419. or by Skype caller ID 00JBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight, we're talking to guest Dr. Bruce Olav Solheim about his book, Anzar, the Progenitor. It is a channeling of an ancient alien entity that's been with him all of his life and has told him things about what's to come, about what's happening now. Such a big picture. To have that kind of connection with something would be amazing. I've had weird experiences where, like I said, when I was in my 20s, me and my cousin were having dreams of these aliens trying to teach us stuff. I think people are having these kind of contacts. It goes, there's the physical context, like Terry Lovelace's abductions, but I think people are having other kinds of contacts. There's something in the spiritual world that involves aliens and their ability in our life to be a part of our life as guardians or guardian angels. Something I've always been interested in and still trying to understand how it affects people in our lives. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are having these kind of experiences. Maybe not to the degree that Bruce has, but they're having communications, they're having experiences, and they can't tell anybody. Because even in today's disclosure, it's still people are afraid to talk. And that's what we're working at here on Paranormal Soup every Sunday night, is to give a forum and a place to talk. And the phone lines are open. Let me make sure they are open. Hold on. And hold on, no, they're not open yet. Now they're open. You can call in, join the conversation tonight, ask a question of our guest, or tell us about your experience. We want to hear it. This is a safe place, people, for the weird, the unusual. Share your experiences. We can only figure this out together. We are the revelation, as I love that term from Anzar, that it's a revelation or the disclosure. It's us. We don't need permission from the government. You just need to know you're safe to talk about it and not give a crap what anybody else thinks. Because I will not judge you. Call in tonight. I want to hear your stories, but let's get back to our guests. Thank you for hanging in there with me, Bruce. I'm barely hanging in here just so people, in between commercial breaks, I'm like blowing out all this snot. Oh, it's so gross.
I had a really serious cold when I was in Norway, and one of my cousins there gave me these cough drops. He said that were from Russia, and I was very hesitant to because I smelled them, and it smelled like I don't know,
Chernobyl.
It smelled toxic, like toxic metal. So I was too afraid to take them. It probably would have worked really well, but anyway, that's. I know what you're going through. I have allergies.
Oh my God. So. My poor 9-year-old suffers with them so bad. And I was like, man, I've been doing so good this year. And then right before this show, which I'm really looking forward to, I start to come down with it. And I have something else coming up. I'm not going to announce yet. That's going to happen tomorrow. I'm like, great. I'm going to get sick. Like, great. It'll be about the UFO thing. If it happens, I'll let people know afterwards. But I'm not going to say anything more about that. But all right. So back to Anzar. Mm-hmm. There's so many questions I have. Like, you're getting a chance to talk to an entity that must have so much profound knowledge about our past, UFOs, like how do they fly? There's so many questions I'd have if Anzar was my personal guardian. I'm like, oh, buddy, we got a lot of talking to do. Just like there's good aliens and there's bad aliens. Does he tell you who the bad aliens are and what's going on with that?
Well, he says it can be relative, but yeah, there are some that are not as friendly as others, and the way sometimes the way he describes it is to use an analogy. So he asked me, using my historical training, he said, when the old world or the old world met the new world, who were these people? I said, well, there were explorers, there were conquistadors, and then the missionaries.
Let's hope they're not like conquistadors. We're screwed.
The gold seekers, the settlers, and then the merchants and everybody. And he said that, well, all sentient beings are going to have similar kind of characteristics. So, there's going to be some that are probably less friendly and more, manipulative, probably the reptilian types, at least in my experience. The reptilians are rather rough. And I hate to say that because I don't want to have another reptilian experience because they tend to carry grudges pretty, as well. And then there are those that are neutral too. So, but there's different types, and people have very negative. Most of my experiences have been very positive, although they could be traumatic. So I think it depends on the person. Like you mentioned, Terry Lovelace, who had a very traumatic, harmful experience where I think he had radiation burns and
I mean, not just the incident at Devil's Den encounter. I mean, he's woken up bruised and beaten years later. I mean, like, it's not ended. You know, that's not good.
Actually, Anzar has told me that's part of my mission is to help Terry. So I've been helping. I share almost everything I hear from Anzar. I'll share it with Terry before anybody else, and sometimes only with him. So that's part of my mission is to help him. And I think I've helped him in some ways. We've had a similar insectoid experience, so that was kind of
really
cool.
Yeah, that's weird you bring that up. I just noticed today. You know, I've almost 5,000 friends on Facebook. Yeah, it's not because they're all like my real friends. I understand that, people, but I accept
friends.
No, but I accept friend requests up until I can get. And I clean out my list at times. But I accept friends because I realize, that's how people find out about the show.
Yeah,
that's why I do it. Boy, we got the phone lines blowing up here. We'll get to your phone calls here in just a second, guys. I want to talk. Well, I should have picked that up on the other line. Whoever just called, try calling back. I'll try to grab that. I hit the wrong thing. Anyways, the alien abduction experience, like Terry's, I take that very seriously. I'm trying to understand my own experience I had. Nowhere near as negative as to like what Terry had. Nothing like that. But I've known other people who have. And it'd be terrifying for somebody to go through that alone. And for an alien to take somebody against their will is ultimately wrong. So they can't be good. And, I want to see it get out there where we can really approach this subject of people who are going through this and give them some kind of hope or some kind of place to communicate on this,
Yeah, and there could be various reasons, like my 1973 experience was what was called special processing. And I asked Anzar more about it, and he said there was genetic splicing and Gesundheit.
Sorry, I am just dying here.
No,
so
I hope you feel better. But so he's, it was a special processing type. I don't even call it an abduction. For me, I call it a reunion because that's another thing Anzar said is that we're all related. We're all together, and even the different types of alien entities and as he said, and Gene has said this too. My friend Gene, he said. Gene said it first, even before Anzar. He said, "We are the aliens." He said, "We are the aliens." And I asked for clarification. I said, "What do you mean, Gene? Like you are an alien and others are?" And he said, "No, we are all the aliens."
I think that's the truth. I think that's the truth. Honestly,
it makes sense to me why they're so interested. And I have a friend of mine who teaches. He's a professor at Montana Tech. I don't know if you've talked to him, Dr. Michael Masters. He wrote a book called Identified Flying Objects, and his theory is that, and there's a strange synchronicity with me and Montana Tech and him too, but anyway, because I went to Montana Tech for a while, and so he said that he believes that at least some of the aliens are future humans coming back.
See, I've always thought that too.
Yeah,
I've always thought that too is a possibility. Like, even when they like tell them, well, we come from this star system. Mm-hmm. But the possibility is that they originated here, explored space, inhabited another planet, then come back to a parallel past timeline to us. I know, over some people's heads, but that they're really just a future version of us. I don't think that's all the cases, but I think there is a part of that. I've always thought that's a good possibility. That, and I love time travel, but maybe I'm biased on that. But I honestly do. I've always, ever since I was a little kid, thought that was an idea, that was a possibility. And it's been played out in science fiction, and they've explored that concept, and I love it every time they do. But I think there's some truth to it.
Yeah, Anzar agrees with that. That's part of it. That's some of it, not all of it, but that is part of it as well, which makes it even more intriguing to me.
Yeah,
actually. It doesn't have to be just one answer.
Well, the other possibility too, because we talk about past lives and, we've lived before, and the fact that we could have been alien on another planet in a past life, and the fact that everybody here is alien because our souls are. I mean, in a sense, nobody's alien. We've all lived on different planets at different times, and that might be why you have a connection to Anzar from a past life.
Could very well be, and I am connected to him. I know that for sure. And now, actually, I said 3 people have actually seen him. and or talk to him. And the third person is a person we've already talked about tonight, Terry Lovelace.
Really? And
that was just recent. And he just he asked me for permission to say. He said, "Is it okay if I tell people?" I said, "Of course it's okay. That's more confirmation."
Yeah.
When people say, "I'm not going to say no. He's only for me." No. I he's for everybody. That's why I share the information. And if he appeared to you and all your listeners, nobody would be more happy than me, because I could spread the burden around. It's like, okay,
it's more validation.
It is. So I'm very happy about that. But yeah, so it's we are the aliens. We are all the aliens. And as far as which part is true or whatever, my friend Gene said it best. He said, because when I first connected him after he connected with him after he died, I said, "This is so amazing. I got all these questions. It's like like you were talking about all these questions you'd ask Anzar." So I was saying, "Okay, tell me about aliens. Tell me about about the JFK assassination. Tell me about the you're there,
right?"
And so and he says, "Hey, slow down. Okay, let me tell you." He said, "It's all true." That's what he said. It's all true. So when you're talking,
gotta be more specific than that, because I go multiple ways. It's either it could be this or it could be that.
Well, then if you were talking about multiple dimensions,
right,
and all that stuff. So there's different, as I call them, forks in the road of time. So anyway, that I haven't totally tested that out, but it's really intriguing to me.
We better get to the phone calls. Royal, I saw you said you were trying to call in. I was trying to take your call. It keeps hanging up, and I've tried it on 2 different lines. I got something hanging on the one line, so that's the issue. So, Royal, give us a few minutes, because we're going to take this call and then try to call in. But we got Zach on the line. How you doing tonight, Zach?
I'm pretty good, brother. How you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for calling in. I'm not doing good, actually. I'm dying here, but...
Manuka honey lozenges, man.
Yeah, I should have done something like that tonight. Oh.
But I just have just one question, and then I'll share my own experience. Hey, Bruce, very good to see you.
Hey, Zach.
So my question to you is, going back to Anzar, there's a bunch of stories that go along in the contact community about Ashtar of the Galactic Command. My question to you is, would Ashtar and Anzar, would they be the same being? Why or why not?
That's a good question. I have heard about that. I'm going to have to ask him, Zach. I've never asked him that. So, I mean, that's very close, so I would have to ask and find out.
You might get
I would definitely love.
You might be stepping in it if you would go out with that one.
Sorry. I'd love to meet him someday. I would definitely love to meet him someday.
Well, I think it would be great if other people did, so that'd be cool.
So my contactee story, and Jason, Jamie, and Rob have heard this story before. This happened back in April of 2009. I remember I was out in my backyard. My mother told me, she said she saw some flashes of light up in the sky. And I looked up, and sure enough, I could see the flashes too, but they wouldn't happen just immediately. It'd be like a few minutes apart from each other. It'd be a big old flash in the sky. There were about 3 of them all together that I saw. And I didn't think too much of it, so I went to bed. Well, the next morning, I woke up. I was on my right side, and I couldn't move. But I felt like somebody had pressed their finger up against my lower back. But all of a sudden, I just started vibrating and shaking. And I didn't know what was going on. And I couldn't speak fully, but I was able to whisper out, "Who are you?" And I feel some tension release off of my head. So I turn around and look over my shoulder, and I see this tall being with long blonde hair, pale skin, in a silver jumpsuit. His eyes were really unique to me because they had no pupils in it. It was just pure white. And all I kept asking him was, "Who are you? Who are you? Who are you?" And finally, I snapped out of this state that I was in, and the being was gone. And it was just a huge shocker to me. And fast forward through the summer, I'd see different objects up in the sky, and it was really weird. But flash forward over to August of that year, I went out in my backyard, and just out of nowhere, I asked, I said, hey, if you guys send somebody down again, can you give me a second chance? I saw the same bright white flash up in the sky, and I took that as confirmation, and I went back inside and went to bed. Well, that following morning, I remember I should say my upper body was being lifted up, and I could see to my right side there was a being with long blonde hair. This individual's face was like silhouetted, so I couldn't get any descriptive features, but they had a blue jumpsuit on. But to the left of me, I could see beings. I didn't see their faces, but I saw that they had the same pale skin, but they had brown jumpsuits, and there were two of them to the left of me. And I remember talking to this being over to my right, and I remember trying to extend my hand out to say, I'm Zach, and this being said, we know who you are. And I also said, well, why can't I move? Because I couldn't move my legs or anything like that. The being said, you're complicated to handle. Fair enough. So, and then I remember, this is the weird part of the story now looking back. I asked this being, I said, can I feel your hair? And so I remember seeing the being like lean his head over to where I can grab a piece of his hair with my fingertips. And I remember feeling the hair, and it just felt like straw. It was really, really thick. And the being eventually got up and said, we need to leave now. But the way that they exited out of my bedroom is that they just, I can't really describe it too much. They just started disappearing just right in front of me. They would just vanish. They'd be there 1 minute, and then the next minute they were gone. The being to my right disappeared. And by the way, he did give his name to this. He told me that his name was 92. And I thought that was really weird that he gave me a number, not a name. But then the two other beings on the left of me, they disappeared right after him. And that was the last contactee experience that I had that I can remember distinctly.
Well, there's some really cool elements to your story, and
yeah,
I'll start with the first one is the which I can definitely identify with, and I know it's in the literature quite a bit, and that is the paralysis or the feeling of like something electrical. And would you describe it as like being plugged into a socket? And then, kind of like an electrical shock where you can't move anything. Because that,
it felt like that. It's almost like somebody.
You said vibrating, right?
Yeah, it was vibrating, but really the other feeling I can describe for it is, I mean, I have an electroshock therapy machine from the 1900s, and I remember testing it out actually for the first time. I put my two fingers on it and just sent a huge zap right through my body. It almost felt like that to a lighter extent.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting because, people who don't believe in this and won't acknowledge these experiences as real will tell us, and I've had people tell me this, oh, that's just sleep paralysis, right?
Yeah.
But, you don't have, if you have visions of entities, before and after and during, I think that goes well beyond sleep paralysis, and it's also a way in which they can, like you said, handle people easier so they don't freak out. And I've been paralyzed in several of my experiences, and a recent one was an attempted abduction, which Anzar apparently wasn't on duty or something at the time. But
oh wow!
And I woke up with the feeling I was being electrocuted. And I was totally awake, and I couldn't move. And that night, there had been weird things in feeling that there was something in the room, like shadows moving around. And right when that happened, after I broke I was able to mentally break loose of it, not physically, but mentally. I had to use my willpower to break loose. It was almost like I was unplugged at that moment. Oh, wow. And then my wife Ginger came down the hall, and she said, "What's going on?" Because she had heard some weird noises going on in the bedroom. So it alerted her too. So I can totally identify with that and validate in my own personal experience of that type of thing. That's what really stuck out in the other than the cool part of the description and the name and stuff. That is cool too. But as far as well documented in the literature, that is a very common thing, that type of paralysis, that electrical or vibrating type feeling.
You're not the only contactee to have an alien entity give a number as a name either. I've seen that too.
That's cool too. The significance of the number 92. I'm not a numerologist, but I'm sure there's some kind of great. I wonder if it. Let's see. I'm not totally familiar with the periodic table of elements, but what's number 92? Isn't there
I
a 90?
have no idea.
I don't know. Yeah,
not tonight. I don't.
Anyway, there's all kinds of cool things you can look.
Maybe somebody in the
there.
chat room will have it, but
yeah, somebody look it up quick.
Yeah. The other thing I found interesting about Zach, saying I know we got to get the other phone calls, but Zach too is the description of the uniforms.
Oh yeah,
where it reminds me of a little bit of what Terry Lovelace experienced during his abduction.
The different uniforms, because some of them looked human. Some were the Greys, but then there were these humans in uniforms. So that and these sound like Nordic types. I mean, I haven't had an experience with a Nordic type, which is weird because I am Norwegian.
You're Norwegian.
Yeah, so maybe we know those guys, so we're not going to bother with him. We'll send the reptilians in instead.
Yeah, let's not send the reptilians. I have a deep fear of snakes. I do not want to meet a reptilian. I do not.
I don't. I don't want to harm them. I don't want them to harm me. They're very rough, and I just haven't had a very pleasant experience with them. So,
Jamie's got something up here. 92 angel number is one of the encouragement of hope, love. It comes as a reminder that you should leave the past in the past and focus on what the future holds for you. New beginnings are coming your way, and you should be ready for them. Always maintain a positive attitude. Well, that's one way.
And the element is uranium.
Uranium.
Ah, that is interesting.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of a little bit of a synchronicity there. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Their fascination with nuclear weapons, nuclear power. Well, Zach, thank you for calling in, bud.
Thank you, Zach.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Bruce, for answering my question. I greatly appreciate it. Everybody, if I don't talk to you then, have a happy 4th of July, all right?
Yeah, you too, Zach.
Thank you. You too.
We'll have a show on it. It'll be a Sunday, so we got another UFO show then. But Zach's off the line. Royal, I know you were trying to call in. Try to call in. I'll see if I can pick you up on the other line. I don't know why it wasn't letting me pick them up on the one phone line. It was weird. So phone lines are open, guys. Call in. But see, that's exactly, Zach's told that story, or his experience several times on the show, and I love hearing it every time because I find these personal experiences like that so fascinating because it's just the one, like I said, it had this one experience, and he's had some others, he's just had some other UFO alien experiences, but that one like that is it. How many people are going through this or have had experiences like Zach and they don't tell a single soul ever?
It's a really good point. And in this, I was part of Contact in the Desert. It's a virtual thing and it's ongoing. But my lecture, one of the things I talked about is we are demanding disclosure, and I like the revelation is a better word. But anyway, so we're demanding disclosure. But don't we have a responsibility for our own disclosure? Like you said, we have to. Yeah. And then from the ground up, from the grassroots, we can push upwards and allow them then give us the courtesy, to not treat us like idiots, that we know this stuff is already going on, whether you're disclosing it officially or not. We already know.
It's our own UFO Me Too movement.
Yeah, exactly.
It happened to me too, but that's exactly what we need.
And if enough people do it, and we're talking about millions and millions, who knows how many tens of millions of people that could potentially be joining in this chorus of, and then it'll be deafening. It'll be so loud.
A revelation.
Revelation. Exactly.
I love that term.
And the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. We are the trumpets. We are the revelation. I love that. All right. I think we got Royal here. Is this Royal?
Yes, it is. How are you, Jason?
Hey, doing good. Yeah, I got something weird with my phone line. So sorry about that, Royal, but thank you for calling back in.
That's okay. No problem at all. No problem at all. Yeah, I wanted to ask Dr. Bruce. He had mentioned the reptilians a few times already. I'm extremely interested for some reason in the reptilians. Does he believe himself that the reptilians are actually here, living among us, posing as human beings?
Well, I can only tell you what I've experienced, Royal, and I like your name, by the way, Royal. It's a great name. So here's my third book of the Timeless trilogy is Timeless Trinity, and the cover of that has a reptilian female on it. Now, some people have told me they have an aversion to that book. They can't get it because the reptilian lady is scaring them too much. But
yeah,
so there's something inherently very frightening about it. And but here's my take on that. My personal experience was I was having a very pleasant dream about my mother. My mother passed away in 1990, and we were in our old house, and it was very pleasant. We were having a discussion, and I love you, Mom. And she wasn't a real lovey. I mean, she loved me a lot, but she didn't say that a lot. But she was just smiling, and it was so nice. Then all of a sudden, she morphed into. And before that happened, there was this weird moment where she was being very, kind of sexual or something. And I thought, that's just not my mom. My mom was a great mom. She would never be like, and I thought, what kind of dream is this?
Oh,
and I, and it was just,
Freud
disgusting.
would have a field day with you.
It was disgusting, right? So
right.
I all of a sudden she morphed into this reptilian female that's on the cover of my third Timeless book, Timeless Trinity. And then she proceeded to grab me, and it's a very strong lucid dream, and I woke up. She picks me up like I'm nothing, and I weigh like 275 pounds. I'm 6'3". I'm a big guy. She picks me up like I'm a feather, slams me against the wall, and says, "I can do whatever I want to you, and there's nothing you can do about it." And she was very frightening and alluring at the same time. I don't know if I can. That's the only way I can describe it.
But I've heard this. I've heard this from people with reptilian encounters. There's this
They're very sexual.
huge sexual.
I have a very similar experience, and I'll say it after we're done. I had a very similar experience. I lived alone, and it was only a few months ago, and I had an experience where I went to bed and I thought I was awake still, and next thing I know, there was this beautiful woman there with me. And she was very comforting, and it just felt so nice to just have her near me. And for some reason in my mind, I thought to myself, this isn't what it appears to be. And no sooner did I say that to myself, there was a sound, like a strange sound in the room, almost like horns. And I just saw this big being come into my room, so big that he had to duck under the door to come in. And he couldn't even stand straight up in the room. And the girl just morphed into something that looked horrific and disappeared.
Yeah.
And then that's how I woke up, and I was like, what did I just experience? Because I thought I was wide awake. But whatever that was that came into my room, to this day, I feel like it saved me.
Wow.
Very
from her. Was she reptilian like when you saw her?
Absolutely.
Was she reptilian?
Well, she looked like just a horrific, distorted look to her face. I can't explain it. Probably like a reptilian, but a demon.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if it was a succubus or a reptilian, or if that was Saint Michael that came into my room, or an alien.
Did she look like that?
I don't know. Royal can see the screen right now. He's got the book up on his screen. I don't know if you can see it right now, Royal.
Oh yeah, I just
out of it.
That would scare the heck out of me, Bruce. If I saw that, I just had a nightmare like a week ago. I saw my wife, like it was like these dead snakes, like were being thrown on the ground, and then the next thing you know, this big python, like anaconda thing, comes up and like eats them, and then comes right up to my face, and that's when I woke up because I am like Indiana Jones. I do not do snakes. I do not do reptiles. I do not do lizards. No. That's not the alien contact. I'll take the grays, even if they do the butt stuff. I'll take the what do you want to call them? The Nordic. I am not doing the reptilian thing. Nope.
The insectoids are
I'll take the insectoid. And actually had my experiences with something like that. But no way. No, not the reptilian. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
That scares the hell out of me. Well, Royal, thank you for sharing that. That's incredible. You said that was only a couple months ago?
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you,
A few months ago. The most maybe 3.5 months ago. Yeah, very strange. I thought I was awake. I could have swore I was awake, but just a very strange. I didn't know what to make out of it. I didn't know, was it a reptilian? Was it a demon? Was that St. Michael? Was it an alien?
It's semantics. It's semantics, man. It might all be that.
Yeah. Whatever that was that came through my door, that tall man, whatever that was enough to scare her off instantaneously.
Tall man.
Show her real self, or she disappeared.
Wow.
I believe something saved me. I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got goosebumps, man. You hearing your story. I do, because when you talk about a tall man, like I said, I had those visions of being trained by these tall alien-like beings. It said they were Orions and they were warriors, and they were teaching me and my cousin how to fight. Guess what? Reptilians. Yeah, I'm not joking. We thought it was all Dragon Ball Z influence or something.
And this man was so big that he couldn't even stand straight up in the room. I mean, he was ducking over in my room, and that would mean he'd have to be like 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
I mean, he was huge.
Yeah, that's how they were in my dreams.
You know,
to this day, I can't remember what that was.
When I drew the picture, the initial picture of what the reptilian lady looked like from my dream, I was drawing it, and suddenly I got violently ill, and I had to go throw up. And I had been fine before that, you know, and it was just, yeah, they're pretty powerful. And but anyway, yeah, that's a great story, Royal.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for taking my question as well.
Thank you, Royal. You have a great night, bud, and happy 4th of July.
Thank you, Jason. Have a good night. Same to you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See, we got to put the pieces together. We got to share, you know.
Yeah.
I think, the reptilian things I've always been fascinated by. As much as they scare the heck out of me, I've totally fascinated by it. I've been reading about all I could about it since I first discovered people are having reptilian experiences. I mean, you go back to every culture. As a historian, every culture has a dragon. Every culture has a fascination with lizards, or reptilians. I mean, so many. There's so many, back to our ancient past. And then you look at the representations in the Renaissance of, Christianity and the devil and demons and being reptilian-like, and snake. Like, where'd that all come from? Right?
Yeah.
Where'd that all come from? Who's to say, that they, the reptilians are here now, living under Earth. And that's what people, the rumors are. Well, who's to say they don't have souls too? They die and they haunt this world, Yeah.
They're deep in our DNA. So
yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating. I mean, I read all the David Icke books on that stuff too. I don't believe everything he writes, but I find it interesting. I find his research interesting. He really gets into all the connections with society. It's really interesting, fascinating. There's something there. There's something to the whole reptilian movement. What I always said is, when I was a kid, I remember when I first saw V. Remember V?
Mm-hmm.
In the 80s, that came out. Something haunted me about this, and this is when I was a little kid, and I had no idea about aliens, reptilians, or people were seeing that, but something fascinating me about that. And thinking back to it, look how quickly both incarnations of V, very popular. A lot of people, in the 80s were like, wow, V, watch the miniseries and then the TV show, how quickly it ended up getting canceled. And when they remade it, how quickly it ended up getting canceled. It almost hit a little too close to home. It's always what I wondered.
Yeah. There's probably something to that, I'm sure.
We got another phone call here. 860 area code. Who do we got?
Hi, Jason. This is Ariana.
Hey, Ariana.
How's everybody tonight?
Oh, I've been better.
Okay.
I hope you feel better. I had maybe a question and a comment for your guest. I had a past life with the Anastasi, and they were both. When I recall that, they were both giants, Native Americans, and aliens. And whenever I've gone there, I'm kind of, I've kind of at peace, and we all, and I can't explain it, right? But we've all...
It's all right.
Everything is peaceful. I can't think of the words. My brain isn't working.
I feel you. I feel you, Ariana.
So Ariana, have you been to Mesa Verde, to the Anasazi ruins, the cliff dwellings there?
No.
In the Four Corners? That is an amazing place. I
want to go so bad.
Modern day, I've been there, and in modern day, Native Americans don't like to go there. They will not go there. They just will not go there because there's too much spiritual energy there, which includes alien stuff too. Anyway, when you said that, it just reminded me of that. And it also there's also some skinwalker type mythology there in that area too. So it's just a place the modern day Native Americans don't want to go. It just reminded me of that. But I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed being there. I didn't necessarily feel all that any bad energy, but maybe there was some other kind of connection I had to the place. But it's an amazing place, that Four Corners area.
Yeah, I've never been there, but like I said, when I visit, I astral travel a lot, and I visit all the past lives and whatever. But but when I go there, I just feel very peaceful and
like
very
you belong
comfortable there.
Is that the feeling? Like this is home?
Oh, that's cool. And that's the beauty of that, astral travel is that, there's no limitation at all to your experience and what you can connect to. And for everybody, it's a little different, but in general, if you're getting a peaceful, good feeling, then it's a good experience. You're not being, because sometimes you have to check, what kind of paranormal stuff is happening. Sometimes it can be kind of a negative energy, not in saying necessarily demonic, but it could be, kind of bothersome, because I think the spirits that I've contacted, sometimes if I don't do adequate protection, you get rushed by all these different spirits. Most of them are harmless, but they can also be they can glom onto you and drain energy because they so desperately want contact with you. But it sounds, if you're getting a good, easy, peaceful feeling, I was thinking of the Eagles song there just for a moment. I don't know why. The peaceful, easy feeling or whatever. But anyway, that's what I was thinking when you said that. But that sounds like it's very good stuff that you're traveling through.
Yeah, I was wondering if you you said some of it, but what your opinion of it was for the Anastasi, because they said that they've disappeared and there's like nothing there now,
Yeah,
so
their descendants are representing the different tribes in the area, but they for some reason they have this thing that they don't want to go there, and I don't totally understand it. I'm not an expert on that area, even though I traveled there and know a little bit about it, but I don't think it's for me. I didn't get a bad feeling when I was there. Of course, I'm not Native American, so maybe I don't have that close as connection. So, do you have Native American heritage?
I have no idea.
Mm-hmm. It could very well be that you do. Past life.
Past life is what I was thinking.
Yeah. It sounds like maybe you lived there in a past life.
Why? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that could very well be. That's your connection. That's very cool. Thank you, Ariana.
I'd love to.
Ziriana.
Thank you.
Ariana.
Yeah, I'd love to read your book, but I can't get past that cover. It's so upsetting for me.
The reptilian one or the Anzar?
No, the reptilian one.
Well, then get the Anzar book. That's his newest one. You can get right to the good alien.
It's just a little scary. It's not as scary as the reptilian lady. I understand. I was thinking actually changing that cover and but I thought, okay, I'm just going to leave it.
You got to leave it because it might connect with people.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, Ziriana, thank you for calling in.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and everybody have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Were the Anastasi, was that the one where they're like the ant people, though, where they brought them out of, like, they went underground and then brought them out? I can't remember. Or was that the Hopi?
I know that the Anasazi lived in those cliff dwellings there
I know that.
at Mesa Verde, but I don't, maybe I'm not understanding what she said.
Well, I know from what I'm saying is that I know that some I can't remember if it was the Hopi Indian, it might have been Hopi that, believe they were taken underground by ant people or ant aliens, you know what I'm saying, and survived like an apocalypse and brought them back up. There's references in a number of different native. I'm Cherokee. Cherokees believe that they came from from the Star People.
The Star People.
There's so much of that within Native American, just an acceptance. It's a reality to them through their traditions that the aliens are real. They've been here. They're still here. And that's probably why they don't want to go back there. They have a respect for it, like respect of the power of it. Not to mess around. It's bad enough what white people did to them. They don't need to be messing around with the aliens.
Yeah, I think maybe it's not so much fear as it is reverence. Maybe that's a better word for it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Enzar, he's told you some of the stuff like predicted COVID and all that stuff. Is he making more predictions to come? Like, is there stuff you haven't revealed yet, or that he's telling you?
There's stuff that he's been saying that there's going to be, and I say this with a caveat that it may happen, it may not. There may be lesser than he said, and the timelines may be a little off. But what I initially was told, and what came to me in an image, and then I confirmed it with Enzar on a spirit walk, was around June 30th, so which is only 3 days away, give or take, a week or two. That there would be major disruptions in not just in the United States, but in the world.
Great.
Major disruptions. And so the idea is that not to panic, but to prepare as best you can. So whatever preparations you need to make, make sure that you have them, and just basic stuff. And you don't have to, I don't think people need to go crazy on it, but like if you need medication, make sure you have enough medication for a couple weeks or a month or 2 months would be ideal, And if you can afford it, a generator would be always a great idea. But I think we all know that we are so vulnerable to hacking. And that's the first thing I thought of when he said that, was the hacking stuff, because they've just been kind of probing us for now. And, they know what our weaknesses are. We know what our weaknesses are. And I think we're trying to shore it up. But it's so easy, for the hackers to do it. We're always one step behind those guys, and some of it is state sponsored. Some of it is, like people that are doing the, whatever you call it, where they want money, Bitcoin or whatever.
Yeah.
To get released, get your information released. So it could be some combination of that. So that's one thing, but there's also, he mentioned geological disruptions, so that's earthquake type stuff, which,
hey, Indiana, I'm in Indiana, and they just had an earthquake in Indiana, which is like crazy. I mean, it's happened, but it was like a 3.8 like in central Indiana or lower Indiana.
That's pretty unusual for Indiana, I would think.
Isn't it?
Here it's normal around here. We've had several recently, but
in the past couple days, we had a few small storms swarms out here.
Yeah. And so, he mentioned that, and then, armed conflict, which is always the potential, and disruption.
Biden just bombed part of Syria there.
Yeah.
With bombing Iran, really, their forces in there. So it's cooking up.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on the threat board, I guess, if you want to look at it.
Way too many things on the threat board for my liking, like way too many. I mean, the cybersecurity thing. I didn't agree with Andrew Yang's policies and stuff he wanted to do, but I did like the guy because when he was running in the primaries, because he kept on, and McAfee, John McAfee for the Libertarians. Rest in peace, John. Both of those guys were really pushing, like, we are so behind on cybersecurity in this country and protecting ourselves. We are so just wide open for attack.
Yeah.
Both of them kept pushing that, especially John McAfee.
Yeah.
And here we are. It's a matter of time.
There's a lot of hostile nations that it's not that well known here, but in the high north, I know a lot about Norway because my relatives are there and I constant communication with them. But the incursions by Russians in Norway and in the off the coast, And also they have, they're staking claim to the high north, to the circumpolar region, which has tremendous resources. And they're basically saying this is our territory.
Well, we just had an encounter at sea with them, the British Royal Navy and our Navy.
Yeah. Yeah. And off the coast of Hawaii, there was some activity as well. So, that's in the Pacific. And then you got to worry about what, China's being very aggressive too. So there's all kinds of,
and they're partnering up.
And and they have, they're authoritarian governments. So that's, that is a problem for us. I think China's more of a problem than Russia.
That's what I got sick of the last 4 years is Russia. I'm like, Russia's a problem and Putin's a problem.
Yeah.
But nowhere near what we're really facing is China. They are out to rule the world. And I feel bad for the Chinese people. If you look what's going on with the Uyghurs there, it's horrendous. And the way the media just turns their head to it. You're talking about a Holocaust. You're talking about concentration camps. We made the mistake back in the early 30s of turning our heads as a country to what was happening in Germany, and it bit us in the butt. And here we are, repeating the same damn mistake. Because why? Money.
I think you're right. There's so many like tentacles and like a spider web of connections. And whether it was, I think it was, Nike, wasn't there a statement recently, Nike saying we are a Chinese company, basically, or whatever they said. It was like they totally rely on China. And
they double down. No, the factories that make the stuff for Nike and LeBron James, they heard the rhetoric, they called rhetoric here about the Uyghur slaves making the products for LeBron James and Nike, and they doubled down on it. They basically said, yeah, we're doing that, and we're going to do it more. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, it's a very sad situation, and Ansar always reminds me, because he always reminds me, keep love in my heart, operate from a position of love. He asked me, he told me, he said the average Chinese person wants the same thing the average American person wants.
Yes,
we're talking about a belligerent government, or in this case,
a totalitarian government,
a communist party that the Chinese people would love to have, freedom, just like we do. And I can tell you just a little story. It was several years ago, but I had a young Chinese student. I have a lot of students from China. They come to community colleges and, of course,
I've known Chinese refugees they've given up everything to get here because of how bad it is. I mean, a nuclear physicist, a woman who works now in doing menial labor. She's a nuclear physicist over in China. Can't get a job here doing that. She had to immigrate with no records or anything to come here just to get away from that life.
These are wonderful people, and all the experiences I've had are good, except for one. There was one experience I had, and there was this young man, and he was very physically fit. He was like, I thought he was an athlete, but then the more I heard him talk, he sounded like a special forces guy.
Ooh,
I mean, just, because I knew a lot of special forces guys in the military, Green Berets and so forth. And he just sounded like that. And his English was pretty good. And he was having constant arguments and fights with people in the class. And I had to talk to him about it. And he told me, he said, the only reason I'm here in America, he was very belligerent. He said, the only reason I'm here is to learn everything I can about all your weaknesses, and then I'm going to go home, and I'm going to tell everybody there what's going on here. And I thought, this guy was...
He ain't lying.
I don't think he wasn't being transparent or anything else. That was the only negative experience I've had. And this is at a community college where I teach. I don't know what's going on in research universities and so forth. But all the other experiences I've had are very good, including a woman from mainland China who had come here and was not going back. And just when after Ansar told me in January that it was an accidental leak from a lab, and then when we were told after that it was from the wet market, she said in class, she said, that is the most ridiculous story. We don't eat bats. And that's
it's insult. It was insult. It should be insulting to Chinese people.
And she said there's a research lab right there that specializes in that. That's obviously where it came. And this is a lady that lived in that area. She was from China, a Chinese student, telling me this very early on. And then the whole story got squashed, of course, for various reasons.
There was people from the lab defected from the country telling us that this was made in that lab. And yet the media turned their heads to it.
Yeah.
All because a scientist openly admitted now that he knew it was definitely man-made, came from that lab, but he didn't want to say anything because he didn't want Donald Trump to be right. You're a scientist. It doesn't matter about politics. You should be only stating facts. I don't like Donald Trump either, but doesn't mean you should not state a fact and hide it and lie, because it costs lives too.
Yeah, politics can cost lives. Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing about it. But anyway, that's just some of my experiences with that. And I do want to add that I haven't said it yet, but the other thing that I've been told is that what we're going through is a leap of consciousness, and we've been talking about it without using those particular words. And Anzar says it's a leap of consciousness. It's a next step in our evolution. And the experiencers and people who have had experiences, they're helping, lift people up into this leap of, not a leap of faith necessarily, but a leap of consciousness, the next higher level.
Yeah, I'm not one for faith. I'll just say that I'm a questioner. I'm a questioner. So it's hard for me to have faith.
He's calling it a leap of consciousness. And he says it's part of an era of reconversion. That's what he calls this, an era of reconversion, which I asked for an explanation. And he said that reconverting to what ancient people knew, what our ancient ancestors knew, where they knew they had telepathy in their lives. They accepted it. They had all the paranormal stuff, all the connections to the star people like we talked about with the Native American. So taking that ancient wisdom, bringing it to us now and realizing we have this within us and matching that up with modern technology together to end this leap of consciousness. So instead of modern science, dismissing ancient people and their wisdom, instead we embrace it all. And he says that's what will be required for this leap of consciousness, which is the era of reconversion. So that I just wanted to mention that. I hadn't mentioned it earlier.
I'm glad you did, because what I would say, if there are aliens, of course there's going to be there's a-hole aliens, there's bad aliens, but with some aliens, if they progress to civilization 3, whatever Michio Kaku's progression of leaps of technology. Well, it's not just leaps of technology; it's leaps spiritually too, and understanding. The realms. We only see the afterlife as a woo thing, but if you can actually understand it scientifically and understand that it exists in this realm or how it works, you evolve spiritually, hopefully.
Yeah.
And there's got to be aliens that have evolved spiritually or on some other level than us, I don't hope they're not like John D. Lance's Q in Star Trek and they've become dicks that way too, but I do think there's aliens that exist on some other higher plane or level, interdimensional. We got to go to our last commercial break. And
sure.
I got to go hack up a lung here.
Okay. Yeah. Take care of yourself there, Jason.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll be back after this commercial break. Call into the show. The phone lines are still open. When we come back from the commercial break, they'll be open. So if you got any questions or share your experiences, I love hearing these guys. Even if I've heard it before, I'll hear it again. Call in. Tell Bruce he hasn't heard it like Zach did. And Royal, I never heard that experience tonight. He just had it a few months ago. This is where we get to talk about it. No judgments here at all. I believe you. I believe in your experience. Call in and share. All right, guys, we'll be right back after this short commercial break.
Intercepted a transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated. I don't want to hear it.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDeath.net.
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn. Lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're gonna go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college, I've got a family to support, and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now. Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do voices from beyond the cold case files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Heat 'em up. Do, re, be gone.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419. Or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Dr. Bruce Olav Solheim, author of Anzar, the Progenitor, and he's also author of the Timeless series. There's a 3-book series documenting like 89, I think, believe, of his paranormal experiences, which I highly recommend. I read the first 2. I haven't read the third one because it's got the really scary reptilian lady on the front of it, but I still want to read it. As well as I've just started to read Anzar. To imagine, be able to have contact with something that has that much knowledge. What would you ask? Would it answer 42 as in my earlier bumper, where I said, from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? What would be the question? I want to know all the answers to the universe. And would the alien tell you 42? I don't know. But I would have so many questions, and I have a lot of questions for Bruce tonight. We're running out of time, and I'm sure you do too. So call into the show, share your experiences, ask your questions of Bruce while we still have this time left, and while I still have a voice. I'm barely hanging in there. My wife is up, and she heard me. She's like, "You sound like crap." I'm like, "Yeah, I feel like it too." But you know what? The conversation's keeping me going. So let's go ahead and get back to the show. I'm hanging in there. Thank you for hanging in there with me, Bruce.
I'm with you. I got your back.
All right, man.
At least for a little while longer.
Yeah, a little bit longer, and then I am so crashing after the show. Some nights after a show, I'm like up and wired, and this conversation generally would usually keep me wired, but I am so I'm so not like healthy tonight that I'm going to pass out after this show for once after a show. But I bet I'll be dreaming some weird dreams thinking about all this stuff we're talking about tonight. So the worry I have. With everything that's going on in the world, I don't want to be. We want to have a positive side to what Anzar and you're doing, but he's trying to give some warnings here of possible futures.
Yeah.
There is heightened aggression from Russia and China, and I see them, especially China, as the existential threat to humanity in their philosophy of not just communism. It's beyond. It's techno-communism. It's technocracy. They're able to monitor everything their citizens do. The amount of surveillance that happens in that country on their citizens and their whole social credit systems, right out of a Black Mirror episode. All these things I dream about. I have nightmares about this kind of society happening here. Does Anzar talk about like he talks about us having this awakening, but obviously there's possible other futures where things could go real bad.
Well, he doesn't have me just wear rosy colored glasses. That it's everything's beautiful and everything, because some people had kind of that view, and I being a historian,
on that one.
I'm being a historian. I know how human beings are, and we are not that highly evolved yet. And so there's going to be a few bumps in the road. It's going to be pretty bad for a while until ultimately, and I'm optimistic about this, and Anzar is as well, ultimately we will evolve and it'll be better. But we're gonna go through some rough times.
Some growing pains.
I think you've mentioned a lot of that stuff, and I'll just share what he says here. I want to make sure I get it right. A leap of consciousness and bridled versus unbridled reality. Hard to accept, but it is reality nonetheless. Comfortable reality is not true reality. To see the world and the universe as it really is through enlightenment does not come easy. So in other words, people are going to fall off in extreme directions because they can't accept it. They
reject it.
They reject it for whatever reason, and they'll fall off into some negative, manifestation. And we see examples of this in our own society. You got people as a professor, as a teacher. I'm an educator, so we have certain things that are going on in our education system that are moving away from this idea of teaching. This idea of empowerment for each person, that each person is equal and each person is entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And in other words, I've tried to boil it down without being political, because I'm not political.
I get that.
This idea is that it's just we should be teaching love of not only other people but ourselves.
Of ourselves, well. Yeah, not hatred, not loathing.
And if somebody is teaching you to hate yourself, then it's off to the right.
Amen, brother.
If you hate yourself, you can't love other people. There's just no way to do it.
You know what?
Yeah.
I hate to point the finger at China again, but guess who donates a ton of money to our universities?
Well, there's
CCP.
There's a lot of connections. There's a lot of connection points, and this has been going on for quite a while. It's not like a overnight thing, although in some ways it kind of seems like it, but it's been growing. I've been teaching for 30 years now, and I've seen this evolutionary, actually revolutionary, within the past 30 years, and I've been out of the classroom for a year and a half, during this whole time.
Yeah.
And a lot has happened during that year and a half. I'm supposed to go back in the classroom in January. And one thing I've been online teaching, right? But you don't get the same feel when you get into a classroom and you see young people and you feel the temperature of the room and what they're getting and what they're not getting. And my students are always very polite. But I have a feeling that when I go back, they're getting younger, I'm getting older, so, and they may
Different
not
generation.
They may not accept a moderate approach to understanding the world, or thinking historically, because we can go back in time and find fault in all of these historical figures. Every single one of them has faults, and we can totally dismiss them by whatever the prevailing standards are today. And I always use the example, and I would do it just thinking it was ridiculous. I would use the example of Abraham Lincoln. I'd say that that Abraham Lincoln is one day he's going to be criticized as a racist, and of course we're here now, and so
I said that 2 years ago,
and I'm thinking, here's a man who died for what he believed in, for ending slavery. That's why he died. Let's just face it. That's why he died. That's why he was killed. That's why John Wilkes Booth killed him. So if that's not enough to cement your place in history as a solid person that we should look up to, maybe he said some things in a certain language of the time of 1860s that isn't appropriate today, but does that make him a bad person? No. It doesn't. You have to look at people within historical context. That's historical thinking. We can't impose what the latest trend is today of acceptability on historical figures. It just, because then people say, well, you just don't talk about it. Well, then what happens? Then you
don't learn. We don't explore who we are.
We haven't learned anything then, and it's very. People say that I've heard people criticize, in history. They say, well, if you haven't experienced it yourself, you shouldn't be teaching it or talking about it. Well, then nobody could teach ancient history. Nobody could teach the Civil War, for God's sakes, which is the most important, part of our history. To understand the Civil War, to understand America, you have to understand the Civil War. I very much agree with that, why we fought it. And the continuing arguments about states' rights and all that kind of stuff, which goes on since actually the time of Thomas Jefferson. But anyway, that's a historical discussion, teaching discussion. But it is something that hits on this idea of what Anzar says every single time, which is that we got to keep love in our hearts and operate from a position of love. And it's really easy to say, it's hard to implement. That's the hard part, because I struggle with it all the time. Because even though I'm not a political person, I don't belong to any political party. I think certain things. Obviously, I have feelings, but it's like I'm being forced to go to one extreme or another, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to.
I'm right there with you, brother, because I'm right. I'm always the man in the middle of the argument. That's how I always feel.
And that's and that can be an uncomfortable position when you get people who feel like if you don't agree with them, then you're evil.
Yeah, exactly.
Or that they don't want to, or they misinterpret what you're saying.
Each side is on I honestly think both sides, you want a Republican, Democrat, political aisles, want to dehumanize the other side. That's just where we're getting more and more to that point.
And I grew up in a household where my mom, who was very psychic, my dad, who was she was an artist, that she was that kind of person. My dad was a carpenter and a fisherman. He was like the deadliest catch kind of fisherman in Alaska. He was in a Nazi camp, labor camp in World War II. He's hard as nails kind of guy, but he wasn't comfortable with the paranormal. He wasn't comfortable with the psychic stuff, But so I had very different role models, both wonderful people. And the one thing that they really held in common was their toleration of other people. They were union people, so usually they voted Democrat, but because that was the old style, Democrats, the labor unions, that kind of stuff. And but they also voted for Republicans too, because my mom and dad always said we vote for the best person.
Exactly.
We're not doctrinaire in that way. They didn't use the word doctrinaire, but anyway, that's what they're not slavishly voting for one over the other, even if they don't like the person, just because they're party loyalists. Which reminds me of one of my favorite presidents, Theodore Roosevelt, who was technically a progressive Republican, but was rejected by the Republicans and formed his own political
that started
party.
a party.
Yeah, the Bull Moose Party, and did the Republican Party with his own percentage of votes. So anyway, it's I think it's an important part of this in our evolution, is to be able to see things in a much broader sense, in a bigger picture, and keep love in our hearts. And the other thing I wanted to mention was that this is what Anzar said too about this evolutionary step that we're taking. He said there is a spiritual drought, and when the rains of truth come, they will be powerful, and people must be ready to accept the flood of enlightenment and the paradigm shift that follows. So it sounds kind of ominous, and it is ominous in a way. And we're going through it, every day. I mean, this is what we're going through. And people are going to act weird. They're going to do strange things. And like I sent a memo to my bosses at the college and my union leadership and faculty senate leadership, and I said the two biggest problems we're going to face as we go back to the college, and that we're going to face for the next several years, are one, freedom of speech, and two, the security of our campus, because there's so many people that are disturbed and that are violently disturbed. And we're a totally open campus, and we've already had a shooter lockdown situation that I was involved in January 2019. Nobody was hurt, thank God, but we were locked down for 6 hours.
Yeah,
and it was terrifying for the students and for all the faculty as well. But anyway, those are the two biggest challenges I see. And understanding freedom of speech is that, which is under attack constantly. And has been, and the first thing you lose is privacy. The next thing you lose is your freedom.
Yeah,
and we're already well on the way to almost completely losing our privacy. And then
we're freely giving it away, and I'm just as guilty as everybody else. I mean, we use our cell phones. We're giving away our data constantly. Yeah, it's convenient, right? And we're just telling them everything about our lives. I mean, we post it right up on social media for everybody to read. We're telling them when we take a poop, seriously. I mean,
it's every aspect of our lives are documented and categorized and collected. And as you know, I'm not necessarily a big fan of Edward Snowden, but one thing that was great about that was that it confirmed everybody's fears about what the NSA is doing, how much stuff they're collecting. And it reminded me of that movie that came out many years before that with Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington. Yeah, and it was, at the time, it was just like, oh, science fiction. They don't have that much. And now it's like, oh no, this is what happens.
They had it then. They had it then when Gene Hackman was talking about it. They had it then.
Yeah.
I mean, the NSA don't fool around. They have it, and they've been spying. They know a lot of things, and they listen in. And now, today's age, we're just giving it away. Just giving this information away to people. I mean, and then China, you have countries like China, setting up apps like TikTok that are literally getting everything from you, from you, and people are like, "Woohoo, TikTok! Look at me!" Sorry, Jamie, I know you're on TikTok, but it drives me nuts.
Well, and the report that
you're on Facebook.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, all the big tech companies are beholding, to these powers and that don't necessarily have our best interests at heart. No. So that's why this idea of a paradigm shift of the groundswell from the grassroots about the existence of the paranormal, the supernatural, alien, contact and UFOs or UAPs is so important that we keep the momentum going And, if we talk about that report that just came out, which we mentioned earlier, I was reading between the lines. I've read it a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I think you can read a lot into it. And of course, we didn't get the classified version. And the next step, of course, would be some kind of hearings, which is always political theater, but sometimes you can get tidbits of information that could come through that. And meanwhile, while that's going on, we have to keep pushing from the ground up.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all we can do.
Well, I'd love to see some hearings like, what did Bob Lazar come out with? Where's S4? Is there stuff there? What's still at Wright-Patterson? I mean, I believe there's still stuff at Wright-Patterson.
I think you're right. And I just by coincidence, my eldest son is stationed at Wright-Patterson.
Really?
He's in the security forces.
Oh, I don't want to give him trouble.
He had authorization, but I think it was one of those. Well, yeah, he was allowed to go, but he took me to, I think they call it Area B, where Hangar 18 was supposedly.
Hangar 18, yes, yes.
So he took me there, and it was a weird place. It has a nuclear reactor there, which is just sitting there. It's a little one, but it's it's there. And there was this building within a building, and we stopped in front of it. And I said, "What is this building? There's no cars parked here. What is going on?" It's obviously a very big, like a former hangar building.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, this is where they do the reverse engineering on enemy stuff and other stuff." And he said, "If we
totally
stay here too long," and we just stopped for a minute. I took a couple pictures, and then he said, "We can't stay here very long because there will be an armed response very quickly, and they're not Air Force people." He said, "Dad, these aren't going to be Air Force people that come out to talk to us and get us out of there." So,
but that said, see, your son says they're not going to be Air Force people, and what I've been saying, the element of this where it's so deep, it's not your Air Force colonels or your Army generals that know about this stuff. There's some other segment that's just off the books, and it's got a wall around it that these people don't even see through.
Yeah, I mean, there are buildings within buildings, and then the underground stuff. We're driving along, and there's these air shafts and stuff. And
oh my God!
So it was really cool. And he's had some friends of his, not him, but some friends of his. So I won't say what their names are. I don't even know what their name. But anyway, they were doing security checks, and they wandered into these tunnels, and they got to places they weren't supposed to be. Ooh. So there's you're right to think that there is stuff going on there, and much less any of these other places that we are even more well known.
I mean, I like Area 51. Not to say there wasn't Bob Lazar might be wrong or right, but a lot of that's nuclear waste that was being dumped there. Military nuclear waste. They didn't want people to know about. There's lawsuits. That's how really Area 51 got. I mean, besides Bob Lazar putting it on the map, they went to court. People were sick and dying from the nuclear waste that worked there.
Yeah,
and
the downwinders. Yeah.
Yeah, but Wright-Patterson's always fascinated me. You can't move this alien technology very easily around the country. It's got to still be there because that's where Roswell and other ships, Kecksburg, ended up, and are probably still there. And why don't we have a hearing about that? Let's open it up.
I think we deserve to know the truth. And but the only way the truth is going to come out is that there's enough pressure from the grassroots, from us, the people. And if everybody, let's say the general population is same as scientists and engineers, 85% have had paranormal experiences, which would include alien experiences, of course. Yeah. If 85% of the people demanded and released they disclosed their personal stuff and weren't afraid to do so. And that would put enough pressure within a democracy, if we can remain a democracy, which I think we will.
Let's hope so.
And then that will put enough pressure on that democracy to have to reveal more in this revelation. So that's what I'm hoping. That's my hope.
Me too.
I'm fairly optimistic, although kind of guardedly optimistic about this. Yeah. It might take longer than we think, but.
Well, like I said, it's all of us sharing our experiences and feeling like we're more open to it. Like I said, the biggest thing to come out of the 25th is just this more openness for people to talk. The mainstream media is starting to talk about it.
Yeah,
that gives everybody out there. Like after this all started, we covered for several weeks on the World Wide Web Weird. A new photo would pop up from Rendlesham that happened in 1980.
Yeah,
and then a new photo from the Phoenix Lights stuff people held on to. Their stories and experiences. They wouldn't tell anybody. They were like, "Oh, that's crackpot." They're going to think I'm a crackpot. But I was there at the Phoenix Lights, or I was there at Rendlesham. But I still can't talk about it. But now they feel like they can. We're going to find out more because of people, not the government.
Yeah. Like Anzar said, it's a revelation, and all that entails, which means it's very spiritual as well, which is what some people may not be ready for, because if you think about it, if you all of a sudden figure out that, and it's well known and everybody's saying it, that there are alien life forms, and they have been here, and they've been here for a very long time, and will continue to be here and interact with us. For some people, that's going to really cause them to lose their bearings.
Yeah. And I just, did you hear Obama say that he thinks it'll start a new religion? It could start a new religion. I'm like, I hope that's not the case. I don't want a new religion out of this.
Yeah.
I just want truth.
It's a leap of consciousness, not necessarily a leap of faith. So.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have room for faith. I have questions and I want answers. Maybe the answer might be 42, but I want, I want answers. I just want the truth.
Yeah, you're kind of like Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell in the Power of Myth series, that TV series that he did. He was asked he was explaining what he did, and he was talking to a Catholic priest, and the Catholic priest said, "It sounds like you're a man of faith." And Joseph Campbell said, I don't need faith. I have experience.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly it.
And that's what Gene and that's what Anzar says. Experiencing is believing, and believing is experiencing.
Yeah.
So once you have experienced these things, then you believe it to be true. And once you believe it to be true, it opens the aperture more, and more experiences come. You go in steps, kind of like that, in this progression. So otherwise, if you go too fast, you reach the boggle point and you just dismiss it. Oh, that's not real. So.
Right. I would think that happens to a lot of people with their experiences. They don't realize what happened to them, or that's paranormal. They write it off. I had experience with the major UFO sighting I ever had in my life was a big ship that flew over the head of me and several other 16-year-olds. And it really, at the moment, like all sound stopped. It was a really weird experience. But all of them the next couple days when I tried to talk about it, their minds couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't even talk about it or even think about it. I think if I'd asked any of them now, they'd be like, "What are you talking about?" Like they just pushed it out of their mind because it was so crazy.
Well, there's a lot of people who suffer from historical amnesia.
Yeah.
they just don't remember stuff. And I had an alien contact experience with a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine. At the time, he's my best friend, and I call him Ernie in the book. But he was abducted, and I knew something weird had happened. It was a road trip, and we were.
Yeah.
This happened in Idaho, in the wilderness area of Idaho. And I know we don't have a lot of time, but anyway, the upshot of the whole thing is that he won't deal with it. He does not want to deal with it. And
see, I have a similar experience.
And you can lose friendship. And we have. As soon as I told him I was going to write about the experience, he said, "You can't use my name, and this is ridiculous. You should have." Because when I first told him, I said, "Can you remember what happened to us in 1977?" And he told me all the weird things that happened. And I said, I've kind of learned now that was an alien experience, an abduction experience. And then he got really mad. He went off the rails, and he said, "You're not allowed to write about this using my name." And I said, "Okay, so I'll call you Ernie, and like Bert and Ernie, from Sesame Street." I thought that would be funny. But but he gave me enough information that was pretty shocking, that confirmed what I thought had happened.
It's weird that you bring that up like that with a friend, because that's what I'm going through with my own experience. I had was on a camping trip and with one other person, and we had some other paranormal experiences. I know he might be willing to talk about, but the alien aspect, I think I always been afraid to approach him about it. And then because I think he could have been the abductee, and I got taken along for the ride.
Yeah,
I don't know what I'd be bringing up in his life, because it can be very traumatic for people. They do discover this, so I'm like, do I have a right to even bring that up?
It's a tough one, and I I had to, even though I eased into it, I still got a very negative reaction. And he hasn't contacted me since. I mean, it's been over 2 years since we've been in contact. And he was a very, very good friend. Although we kind of lost track with each other over the years, after that experience, we were never as close. And now,
like Terry Lovelace always brings up, like that there's something that happens. And I know from my experience, after that experience, we were still friends, but I kept on pushing them away for some reason I couldn't understand why I didn't want to be around them.
Yeah.
So there's something to that, psychological or intentful from the aliens. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out my experience, what it is. Was it alien? What was it? I don't know. It's why I think a lot of people don't want to talk about it, because they don't have the answer. They want to be able to talk about it and have an understanding of what happened, but they can't understand what happened to them.
Yeah.
They can't. I don't know. This experience happened and all these weird synchronicities, and I don't know what that means. I don't know who they are or what that was. If that was aliens, demonic, I don't know. It's hard to talk about something when you have no idea what the factors are around it.
Yeah.
That happened to you.
It can shake up your whole sense of self and your worldview and how you experience the world, which is really an interface. What we experience and what we're doing right now is an interface to the real objective reality, which is the implicate order, as David Bohm, the physicist, said, which is where the aliens operate and the ghosts operate, and it's the quantum world. We don't see the quantum world, we get glimpses of it.
Glimpses, maybe, yeah.
And we have an interface with it, kind of like we have an interface with our computer. We don't actually toggle the voltages, that do all the, we have an interface for that. And our explicate reality, our subjective reality is that interface for that implicate reality. And that's what we're comfortable with. And a lot of people don't want to move beyond that. And you can't push them. They don't want to go. You can't push them. You can.
No.
Tell your stories, and when they're ready, I feel like someday Ernie will be ready, and I'm looking forward to that. But I'm not going to push him.
Well, so Anzar's out for people to buy. You can find it on Amazon, right? Any future projects you want to get out there and let people know about?
I do comic books too, so I just came out with
Snark
2. I've done Snark 1 and Snark 2. Snark 2 is Snark 1 is on Comixology.com, a digital comic. Or if you're a collector and want the very soon to be valuable edition 1, they can go to my website, BruceOlavSolheim.com, and there's information on how to get an actual copy and maybe even a signed author and artist copy. Snark 2 is more of a graphic novel. It's longer. It's available on Amazon as well. And I'm working on another comic book, which is a spin-off of Snark, called Dr. Jekyll Alien Hunter, and it's a female lead character. And I got this wonderful art. I mean, Gary Dumm has illustrated all my books and comic books, and he's from the 70s. He worked with Harvey Pekar and American Splendor. He's been around for a very long time. Kind of an underground artist, really cool guy. Yeah. But I decided for this female character comic, I wanted to get a female artist, and there aren't a whole lot of comic book artists that are women. So I found a 19-year-old girl from Poland who is incredibly talented, and she's going to be illustrating that. That'll come out next year.
Well, thank you, Bruce. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's a true honor. I'd love to have you back on again. We definitely will. Blow my mind every time you come on. You're, like I said, the epitome of Paranormal Soup. There's so much more we could talk about, but we're out of time, and I am totally ready to crash.
Yeah, go get some rest and
I will.
Fluids and everything else that you
I will. Yeah, because I got something big tomorrow I want to really tell people about, but I don't know if it's going to happen or not. If it does, I'll let people know, and I'm hoping I'm well enough for it.
Yes.
We'll see. We'll see. Coming up. But thank you again, Bruce. Next Sunday, we're going to keep talking about UFOs with Damian Knott. Next Sunday, UFO researcher. I'm excited to have him. Same bad time, same bad channel. I'll let you guys know if something happens here soon, maybe. I don't know. It's kind of a secret. But thank you to everybody who shares the show. Thank you to all my Patreons out there, the 10 or 12 of you, I can't remember. But thank you guys for paying the bills for the show. It does help pay the bills. If you want to check us out, go to Patreon, look up Paranormal Soup, Jason Bland. You can find us there. $2 a month does help pay the bills. All right, guys, thanks for watching. See you next week. Have a great night.